Hello and welcome to basketballnews.com's watch party for Lakers and 76ers. I'm your host, Spencer Davies. Alex Kennedy is out tonight. He's feeling not too well, but hopefully, Alex, you get back with us here soon. But I do have some great guests with me. Brian Fonseca, Matt Issa, and Evan Sidery, all of my boys here, going to talk with everybody about what is going on around the league. Of course, we've got some all-star talk that we're going to get to. The game will not have LeBron James, as we know, but who knows? Maybe Russell Westbrook and Anthony Davis can help us out, make it a game against Joel Embiid and company. So we'll see there. But before we begin, I'd like to thank our sponsors over there at Prize Picks and Ticket Smarter. Remember, you guys can go over there on Prize Picks and make a bunch of player props. Ticket Smarter is also the perfect place to get 100% guaranteed tickets to more than 125,000 live events. So, gentlemen, how are we doing today?
I'm doing well, but I think we should start the conversation off of me because I tweeted right when I saw it. But how is Andrew Wiggins an all-star starter, but Devin Booker is not?
Oh, okay. Please, the floor is yours, Evan.
Go right into it because honestly, I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me. Maybe you could say Booker's in the backcourt, but you have Stephen Curry and John Morant sharing the backcourt. Both are point guards. If you're going to start Booker, who plays some three and some two, well, let me ask any of you guys. Andrew Wiggins is an all-star starter. Like, anyone out there want to chime in on that? Because I truly, it doesn't make any sense to me at all.
He's like at this point the epitome of the sub all-star, I think. But I don't know how to put it into words. The Booker ones, it's strange that you think Booker should be the starter instead of him. I know you're like a Suns guy, so like I guess you might be a little homer bias, but I mean, there's definitely I would say, just to forget positions and stuff, I would say there's like 10 guys in the Western Conference, other than those 4 starters, that should probably be in that slot instead of Wiggins.
Yeah, for sure.
Nothing against – he's having an awesome year, by the way, and he deserves a lot of praise. He's proven a lot of people wrong, but this is just not the way that we should be giving him his flowers.
Well, you can probably thank a lot of his fans up there over back home in Canada too. I mean, that's another part of it that obviously gets him into that position. But at the same time, maybe not as a starter, but I could have seen all-star reserve in Andrew Wiggins. Especially knowing where the Warriors are right now, second in the conference. They're having a good year. He's having his most efficient year. They're utilizing him as a cutter. He's been really good about playing off of Steph Curry. So it's good to see his individual successes. But starting next to the likes of, Nikola Jokic and Ja Morant and LeBron James, that is a little bit high praise. But good for him. Good for him,
Yeah, I mean, I generally don't like fan votes typically because stuff like this happens. It can ruin an all-star game starting lineup. It can ruin The Voice. Like, it can ruin a lot of different shows, whatever the case may be. So then this kind of thing happens. I have no issue with Andrew Wiggins actually being in the all-star game, given that the Western Conference front court isn't great. Like, when you look at it, it's like, especially with Paul George and Draymond Green out. And Draymond Green, we don't know for how long he's going to be out, but a lot of people probably would have had him in that seat. I think that if Golden State was going to take 2 All-Stars, that he would be the second one because of how great he's been, particularly on the defensive end. And then you see Andrew Wiggins' numbers sort of dip once Draymond Green is out. There's a reason for that. But I think him being in the All-Star game is fine just as a starter. I mean, I don't know, but I also don't know how much we're supposed to put stock into this again because it's just a fan vote. And it's it's not just Golden State fans, but it's also Canada and, probably a lot of other people who just didn't want to see Rudy Gobert in the starting lineup, which, I kind of get it. So,
well, the problem is, Brian, and Nick Hayes has done a really good job of being vocal about this on basketball on their podcast. But this helps tell the story of the NBA. Not everyone's a historian who goes and takes the time. Okay, who are actually the 25 best players in a particular season? Usually they'll just say, okay, it's whoever were the all-stars. So now 30, 40 years from now, me, you, Evan, and Spencer know okay, he wasn't one of the top 25 players this year. But 30 years from now, some average Joe's going to be like, oh, man, Andrew Wiggins, really great year in 2021, 22. So that's where it's a problem. Me and you can put no stock in the fan vote, but it just legacies are on the line,
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's when you look back on it years from now, like, certain people are just going to have an all-star that, it's going to be like, oh yeah, this person like forever. Now he's, it's like Grammy award-winning artist blank.
Mhm.
He is NBA all-star Andrew Wiggins forever, deserved or not. And also NBA all-star starter in this case. So no, it's a good point. And that's the thing though, right? It's like when you're opening it up to fan voting, most of the people are not going to be like, they're not going to care about the legacy aspect to really do the deep dive. It's kind of like, I'm a Warriors fan, or I like the best team, or who I think is the best team, or I'm Canadian, or whatever the case may be. I just want to vote for Andrew Wiggins. Like, that's just really it. And that's sort of the problem with opening up to fan voting, because then when you give the fans so much power, this kind of stuff happens.
Do you guys even vote? Like, do you do the fan voting? Because I don't personally. I don't think it's worthwhile.
Nah, I mean, I'll vote for players that like I know aren't gonna have a chance at starting, but like I would like to see in the game. Like Fred VanVleet got a couple votes from me to start the All-Star game, knowing that he wasn't gonna be a starter. I guess we'll get to the Eastern Conference in a second, but like I'll do stuff like that because like LeBron's gonna get his votes, et cetera, et cetera. Like certain people are just gonna get theirs. So for me, it's like whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And guys, by the way, the game just tipped off all of this all-star talk, but we do have basketball underway in Philly as Joel Embiid just takes it right into the teeth of the defense already. Good defense by AD off the bat, though. But wanted to remind everybody that this watch party is powered by Prize Picks, the easiest way to play daily fantasy. And here's how it works. You pick 2 to 5 players and an over-under on their projections, and you can win up to 10 times on any entry. It's you versus the projected numbers. And Prize Packs has a ton of stats to choose from. That's points, rebounds, assists. You can do all 3, fantasy points, all that stuff. So on top of that, they allow mixed sports entries. So if you have perhaps what's going on Sunday over in the NFL, you have Championship Sunday. So if you have somebody like Patrick Mahomes, but also LeBron James is playing, you can do those 2 together. So that's really awesome. You can think of whatever sports that you think of. Prize Pick has them: NBA, NFL, college basketball, MLB, soccer, MMA, college football, all of that stuff. So all of our viewers who deposit and use our promo code NEWS will receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100. So be sure to use that promo code NEWS on prizepicks.com. And thanks to them. So for this game, what do you guys see? Obviously, not having LeBron is a bummer because he is having an outstanding season right now, especially being age 37. And really putting this team on his back. And we know that the Lakers, their roster construction is just awful for, being a LeBron James team. They're a bunch of veterans that, are very similar minded in the way that they get their shots. And not a lot of players that are off ball and all that stuff, but they've shown a little bit of life at least, and they just got AD back. So what are we thinking about their chances here in Philly as we get underway?
Yeah, I think quite honestly, we've heard already the smoke about the situation at Russell Westbrook, but it's kind of telling to me, at least. I mean, obviously, no LeBron playing tonight. Of course, it's going to be a lot on the shoulders of Russell Westbrook and Anthony Davis, but we're hearing rumors from guys like Eric Pincus and other NBA insiders saying that they've already talked about exploring Russell Westbrook trades already, and just a few months after the season has started. And we saw what happened on draft night, where they were supposed to be Buddy Hield, and instead, according to multiple reports, Anthony Davis and LeBron James wanted Russell Westbrook instead, and now it's kind of buyer's remorse already. So I thought at first it would have been a strong fit if the role players around him would have done their job, like be a really elite offensive team, make the spacing really easy for him. But it just hasn't worked out in LA. And quite honestly, they're kind of stuck with Russell Westbrook. I mean, the only contract they can maybe trade him for is John Wall, who hasn't played in almost 2 years. We'll have to see actually how John Wall would fit in Los Angeles. But I think that's something I'm looking forward to the next 2 weeks before the trade deadline, because what exactly happens with the Lakers and Russell Westbrook, guys? I mean, what's your guys' thoughts on that?
Okay, are we really are we all 4 of us 100% sold that the Westbrook thing is it's not salvageable? Because I feel like there is still hope. He has.
Oh, you're one of the few, so please.
I mean, this is the 3rd year in a row, I feel like, where he started out slow, and in the last 2, in February, he really started to ramp it up. Obviously, in the playoffs, it was a different story, but the Houston one, there was some exigent circumstances that they kind of kept him from performing at his best. But I mean, okay, he's one of the best in the league still at racking up rim assists, And I mean, obviously getting to the rim, easiest points in the game. I'm not going to explain that. They're one of the best rim pressure teams in the league. I know that's a little overrated at this point because he's not finishing at the rim the way he has in past years. But I mean, it's LeBron, it's AD. When the three of them are on the court together, their plus minus stuff is still really good. I don't know. I'm not ready to give up on it. And I know, like Evan said, the value there, they're not fooling anybody anymore. I don't think everybody's tradable in the NBA. Like cap space isn't real, but I don't think they're gonna get a return package that would allow them to compete otherwise. So I think they have no choice but to try and salvage this thing.
For me, it's just pretty much about shot selection with Russ, man. Like if he gets to the rim, he puts his head down and he's passing the ball well, not turning it over. He's a really good player.
He just
like honestly, like when I watched that Magic game, like you get back to the basics, just like he said to to Woj and the reporters after. Just go to the fundamentals of the game when you're lost. And like in the half court, it's really tough on him because he's not that great of a shooter and he's not really an off-ball player. He has to have the ball in his hands to be effective, which then you think about what LeBron is doing. You want the ball in his hands. So it's that kind of, which one do you want to give the ball to and which one do you want to send off of cuts? Like that part is difficult.
Well, actually, like the off-ball thing, I think he's a little underrated as an off-ball player. I remember earlier this year, it was Krishna Narsu over at B-Ball Index. He brought it to my attention that like Russ Westbrook's actually like a pretty good spacer, and it's because he's like pretty decent on low volume at catch and shoot threes. And I feel like that's something they should definitely look at ramping up. For one reason or another, they don't do it a lot. That's probably because like Russell Westbrook is kind of stuck in his ways, and I think he still thinks like he's one of the 25 best players in the world, and it's hard to tell a guy that's that athletic that he's not. But I think as a cutter, obviously we've talked about the inverted pick and rolls a lot. That hasn't really happened this year. But I think there's still plenty of value as an off-ball player. Maybe I'm just too positive about basketball.
The thing that I keep coming back to is something you said earlier, Matt, where it's like I don't see what are you going to get out of trading him at this point? Like what reasonably is the return that's going to be like, all right, now we fixed it. So I feel like you're just stuck with the deal. And you're stuck with trying to figure out how to make it work. I'll give Russ credit to your point, though. The last couple of years we've seen this, particularly in Washington last year, that team didn't really ramp up at all as well as Bradley Beal had been playing until Russ really got going like midway through whenever that was, not January because the season started, damn near.
The famous calendar, the one that went around Twitter, what is this? What is this? What is this? Huh?
Yeah.
It's like, is this the
That's
greatest
where we're at
player
now.
I've ever seen?
That's where
we're at the high point.
Yeah, we're at the hub point. But I mean, for me, I also don't. I think like they have no other option. But at the same time, it's like even whatever the ceiling of it is, I just have a hard time seeing them get past, the Golden States, Phoenix, and I think both conferences are wide open, like from a macro standpoint, right? In terms
the East is incredible. Like the East is crazy,
deep
right now
and deeper, and they're wide open. And the Western Conference, I feel like, although people are putting the Suns in their own class, like I still think that they're beatable, right? I just don't know if the Lakers are going to be able to come up with something between now and then that's going to be able to take them down, unless Anthony Davis sort of returns to form and LeBron continues to be LeBron and they can figure something out. We don't have like the sample size to sort of suggest like, hey, here's how they can turn it around yet.
Yeah, and they have really no assets to play with either. I mean, we've heard him try to get into Jeremy Grant, but you're offering THT, Kendrick Nunn, and a 2027 first-round pick. Like that's not going to get it done for a guy like Jeremy Grant. Really, anyone out there that's really going to move the needle for you.
Especially because THT, they were really praising him in the offseason and really expecting a lot out of what he could bring to the table, and he's been pretty much inconsistent this year for them. Every time he's hit the floor. Hold on, we're going to bring one more person in here. What's up, Matt? How you doing, bud? You're on mute. I don't know. Does he know he's still on mute?
Probably not.
Oh, well. I'll just watch Joel on bring down AD like this.
There we go.
Oh, almost
he figured it
out. What's up, Matt?
We're good.
How you doing, man?
I was talking.
Welcome to the show.
Nobody's responding, and I'm like, that's because I'm on mute. Classic.
Classic.
You think after 2 years of doing this, I'd figure out?
We would know. For sure, man. How you doing? How you enjoying the game so far? You got any thoughts on the All-Star starters revelations?
No thoughts. I'm just getting into the game, so I'll
Okay.
have a few in a bit. But yeah, this should be fun. It's a shame LeBron's not playing, but I mean, what can you do?
Well, AD just crammed on Joel.
Yep.
Hopefully he's okay. Looks like he landed a little weird.
Oh.
You don't want that. You don't want that. He just got back. Oh wait, he's grabbing his wrist. This is interesting.
Oh man.
Right.
Put that man in a bubble, man.
Wait. He's got a post up. Nice feed. But denied by Joel Embiid. Oh my gosh. Gorgeous defense. No, but okay, so we talked about the Western Conference starters a little bit. I know that you wanted to hit on the East, Brian. So what did you think about those picks? Obviously, we're not going to see Kevin Durant in Cleveland, even though he is the captain. We'll see who's going to replace him in the game itself. But what do you think about those selections in the Eastern Conference?
I wasn't surprised. I mean, the front court, we've known that since practically Thanksgiving. Like, we knew it was going to be Joel Embiid, Kevin Durant, Giannis Antetokounmpo, rightfully so.
Yeah, easy.
DeMar DeRozan, though, I don't know why he's a guard. He is, starting in the backcourt. I don't get it.
Pet peeve of mine. And actually, Nikias said the same thing in his articles for both Fred VanVleet and Darius Garland, because one of them is probably going to get left out because of that.
But I mean, look, DeMar DeRozan deserves to be in the starting five. It's just like the NBA is playing both sides here. It's like, all right, we're gonna tell you, who qualifies for what position, but then it's also like the game is sort of going positionless now. It's front court, back court, as opposed to point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, center. I don't know, but whatever.
Yep.
Trae Young is the one for me where I'm like, does he need to be starting? Like, does he absolutely, like, I know he's averaging like 30 and 10 damn near. And the Atlanta Hawks are on a very good, like, ever since the Cam Reddish trade, they've been playing really well because they've been able to, consolidate more minutes and sort of organize themselves a little bit. And he obviously gets credit for that. But I don't know. Like, I'm hoping that Fred VanVleet gets in. But I'm somebody who was like, it'd be nice if he started, because I think that he's been big time on both ends of the floor this year. For a Raptors team that some would say overachieving, I would probably say like they're about what I expected, more or less. But like, he also doesn't really have like a viable backup point guard. He's playing like 38, 37 minutes a game or something along those lines. And he's been grinding it out all the time, which is probably why he's hurt right now. But yeah, I don't know. I look at Trae Young and I'm like, I don't know if he needed to be a starter, but he was obviously going to get the fan vote. So that was going to be a moot fight.
Yeah, he's got that star appeal, definitely. And there's, other point guards that are pretty much playing on his level, like you just mentioned. So probably not, an easy selection among the point guards, especially when you look at records. I think the Hawks record is also, even though they've been playing better, you look at the overall sample size and you're probably thinking, a different point guard could probably get into there. And I'm surprised that, Kyrie wasn't in there, because he was at like, second or third in fan votes. Like, I'm surprised that he wasn't in there or something, miraculous like that. But it's pretty much what I thought it would be. We've got our first 10 All-Stars, or you could say 9, I guess, with KD not being in the game. And then, we're going to hear from our reserves here in the next week or so. But it's fun to think about the All-Star game. It is coming to my hometown of Cleveland, Ohio, and I will be there. So that'll be fun.
Can we just slide DeMar DeRozan to the 3 and then put another guard in the starting lineup, who starts for Kevin Durant now? Like,
it should be DeRozan. It should be DeRozan. That should be just like a call they make.
I think other than
he's
that,
he's played some 4 before. Like, I mean,
other than that, realistically, you're looking at probably Jimmy Butler, because other than that, in the Eastern Conference front court, and he's deserving, obviously. Other than that, in the Eastern Conference front court, it's like,
is there like a specific count for games need to be played to be a starter?
I mean, I feel like during a pandemic,
True.
like he's missed 18, but we're already around the 50 threshold. So it's like, okay, he's played, more than 60% or around 60% of the season. Like, for me, that's acceptable, particularly in this season.
100%.
So I feel like it'd be him. Otherwise, it's going to be, I don't know, Jason Tatum, I assume, is probably going to be an all-star.
Yeah, he'll probably make it. I don't know. Honestly, if you want my real opinion, I think that Jaylen Brown should be an all-star over him if it came down to those two. I don't know if both of them should make it, but that's just me. But
What's the case for that?
I just think that Jalen's been a little better this year, just individually. I think
He's more efficient, that's for sure.
it's pretty much Jason's been ice cold pretty much all season, at least from deep.
And then he'll go crazy. Like he'll get a 50 and then a 44, and then he'll just, go 7 for 21 after that.
It's like the Derrick Henry of the NBA or something. But
God.
No. I mean, pretty much. I'll just tell you what my line of thinking is. So I was looking at clutch stats today because I have a feature coming on somebody pretty prominent actually in the next few days. Just got off of did a phoner today, and I was just looking at the clutch stats, and I just saw how many shots Jason Tatum took. Not only just the clutch stats by the NBA's recommendation, which is a header behind by 5 points with less than 5 minutes to go. I was narrowing it down to like 2 minutes and 1 minute, and Tatum was up there on the attempts, and he was like 1 of 11 from deep, like 5 of 26 or something like that. Like it's just not Jason Tatum that we know, and he just hasn't been cashing in on those like really important shots down the stretch this year. Now, is that his own fault? Probably not, because the Celtics don't have like a table setter. And he's having to create a lot for himself, create for others. Shoot, the same goes for Jaylen Brown. They're pretty much doing the same thing in that respect. But that's pretty much where my argument comes in. He just hasn't been the same guy consistently. But yeah, he did just come out and have a 51-point game, and then Celtics just embarrassed the Kings the other night. So that probably you could still argue for Jason Tatum to be an all-star, no question. I just think that there's still, some things in the air there for reserves. At least I don't think that both of them are shoo-ins.
Oh no,
AD
I don't know where you guys are TV wise. You see AD walking out?
Yep.
Is it his wrist or is it something else?
Wow.
Oh yeah, no, he's walking back to the locker room.
Got off to a really good start too. He had 10.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
he there were times where I would look over and I'm like, wow, he's defending Joel Embiid, who's on a tear, really well. And
Man, 9 minutes in. I hate seeing this dude. I hope he gets back in because I feel like more often than not he does come back in after these. Like
Yes.
he falls a lot. He winces and stuff like that, but he still plays through stuff.
No, it's like obviously like the old school guys. They always say, "Oh man, the NBA is soft now. The league's all soft," and like it's not. But it's really hard to argue that when you watch like AD lumbering around after every possession. It's always something.
It's kind of it's not like fatigue and endurance, but endurance in a way of what's your pain threshold, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And that differs for everybody. And let's not forget too that how much and how often AD was playing in the bubble, thinking about what that could have done just to his, that took a lot out of him. And there's an after effect with that. We can't forget that.
oh yeah. I say that all the time with the teams that played it deep into the bubble in the Final Four. There's a reason that they all looked tired, extremely tired at the end of last season. Like the Heat and the Lakers. I think we might have talked about it last time. Where the Heat and the Lakers, they had 7 weeks between the NBA Finals and then training camp for the next season. So like, yeah, they're probably going to tire out by the end of the first round, which we saw. And then the Celtics and Nuggets, it was about the same thing. Like the Nuggets are the only team that got out of the first round. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they got swept.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like Nikola Jokic, in the entire series, his arms were very red. He was getting hacked a lot. He was tired. You know what I mean? Like it's like those teams in particular like needed the rest going into the season. And since then, I mean, I don't know if the Lakers are still paying for it, but perhaps that's also part of it too, right? We were talking about the Lakers' struggles.
I kind of feel the same way about Jimmy Butler too. Like, like I feel like it's not that he's missing games. It's just that there's these knick-knack injuries that have happened for him the last 2 years. And every time like I'm watching a game, I'll just see him leave with just some sort of irritation and miss a game or two. And then he'll come back and it'll be fine. But like, I feel like these knick-knack thing happened to him too, like a lot. So it is like, there's a lot that came from that entire, time spent in the bubble. So that that definitely affected a lot of things. Matt, I wanted to get your opinion because, talking about the All-Star earlier, we didn't really talk to you about the Nets too much, but you're obviously very close to covering that team. KD's a captain. Kyrie's back. You got Harden and all that stuff, the hoopla going on this last week that I'm sure you want to just talk about a lot. But seriously, what's your take on where Brooklyn is right now, and seeing how they've kind of tried to come together in this time where they've lost their top player?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's definitely more pressure than ever to win. I definitely buy all of the Harden stuff that's going on this week. I know Woj came out and kind of shot it down. The front office usually goes to Woj for these things, the Nets front office. So I wasn't necessarily surprised about that, but they're kind of like they need to have a good year, I think, because I think a lot of the Harden stuff is pretty real. Just like it's been percolating the last couple of weeks. So yeah, with that in mind, like, I mean, it's like everything that could have gone wrong this year has pretty much gone wrong. Like even down to the point of like Joe Harris has gotten hurt. KD gets hurt, right? Like they have that game against Chicago, right? Where they look just incredible. 15 minutes of just like pure bliss. And then literally, what was it? The next game, I think it's at home. So Kyrie doesn't play. KD, hurts his knee. So it's like, it's just been a year kind of like this where everything that could have gone wrong has gone wrong. Even like on their sort of like lower on the totem pole, their role players like Bruce Brown, Blake Griffin, they kind of regressed in a way. They didn't hit on all of their free agency picks that I thought were going to hit. Like Paul Millsap, I thought was going to be at least interesting for them. Just at this point, he's not even going to be on the team by the trade deadline or even earlier. So it's been it's been just a weird year, like just really weird. And they're still good. Like they're a really good team, but a lot of pressure on that organization to succeed right now.
There is. And, you figure having those vets like Patty and LaMarcus, like around, like they're going to be stable. Yeah. But it just, your question is, are they going to have enough? And, is KD going to be back in time? Is he going to be able to ramp up for the playoffs and really get right back into things like when it matters? Like that, I think that's going to be your biggest question. But who knows, because KD's like literally magic. So, we'll see how that shakes out. Then obviously, even if Kyrie's healthy, he won't be able to play those home games. That's huge too. Like, so you're right. There has been a lot that's gone wrong for him, but I still feel like they're in a decent position. That's pretty much my.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's better that all this stuff happens now than versus like if this happens in March. So if you want to spin it that way, like, oh, at least KD didn't get hurt in a couple of months. Or, I mean, Joe Harris, it seems like that's the one that I don't know yet. Like, it just seems like there's just no timeline on that, which is troubling because he went through surgery. I think he had surgery 2 months ago, and they just now were like, oh yeah, you had a setback. So I don't know when that's going to get fixed up or anything, but that's the one I'm not really sure about. And he's huge for them. Like they really need his spacing because after that it's Patty and then like maybe LaMarcus if he feels like popping to three, but that happens like 25% of the time. Like it's mostly. That's why
they got the Rook though. That's why they got the Rook. You wrote about him too.
Yeah. I know Kessler Edwards. It's been exciting. He's been very fun to watch. And then after
Dayron's been fun to watch too. Like you see it in some of the young cats.
Well, that's been the fun part is it's kind of had like, because of all of the injuries and just like general COVID instability, there has been this weird run where the rookies got a chance. Yesterday's game was weirdly fun against I literally went Denver. That game was pretty fun because it was just like a bunch of role players sort of figuring it out. It reminded me a lot of like the teams before they got the big three. It harkened back to that a little bit. So it's been fun to watch in a way, but it's also like, I have no idea what it looks like altogether. Like we really haven't seen it at this point.
Sure. End of the first quarter, gentlemen, 32-22 in favor of the Sixers. looking like it could get away from LA here in a moment. A couple misses there towards the end. Joel Embiid, 8 points, 4 boards, but AD leads the way with 10 points and 2 boards. Malik Monk off to a little bit of a rough start. Let's see here. Tyrese Maxey, 4 points and 5 assists, which is ironic because our Ethan Fuller actually wrote a story today about how he's high in passes in the league statistically, but he has like the lowest amount of assists. So it's really ironic that he has 5 assists in the first quarter here. And I hope Ethan's watching this because that's literally one of our feature stories on the main page of basketballnews.com right now. But that's really funny. And Tobias Harris, perfect 3 of 3 to start, 7 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists. Okay.
I'm assuming we did the Wiggins segment for the All-Star.
You can throw in your opinion too, because I think all of us put our opinions in on the Andrew Wiggins stuff.
So disclaimer, I grew up watching the Timberwolves. Like I think towards the very end, Wiggins was one of the last segments of my life where I was like a fan. Like that's like the last little bit. So it's really weird to see Wiggins make the All-Star team because I remember watching him in Minnesota and just being like, just put it together in a way. So it's very odd to see him like as a starter too. I mean, how did that happen? Do we have any idea? That's what I want to know. I mean, I know the fan vote, but like, I don't know. Maybe I'm missing.
And also he's Canadian. So Canada probably came out and really supported their guy. Because I'm telling you right now, like I can say this from like if JJ Barea was ever like a pretty good player, we would have been going crazy. All right. We would have been all up in there voting for him and all of that. Carlos Arroyo, forget it. You know what I mean? So I think also Canada probably rallied around him along with Warriors fans and probably people who don't like the Utah Jazz very much.
Is he really the best Canadian basketball player in the league right now?
Probably
not.
Shea? Yeah. Okay, Shea's having an off year.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember.
Awesome year last year.
So I'm
around him.
I'm trying to remember who was in FIBA qualifiers like that I saw during the summer. And
there's like RJ
Barrett. He's not an All-Star yet.
He's having a decent year.
He's a lot better now that they're actually, not standing him in the corner all the time. I could give you an hour.
Please rant. Rant. No, I don't know if you saw my tweet the other night. I was like, I love when he has the ball in his hands and he's like patient. When he's patient and he turns the court, he's not the fastest guy, but when he gets to the rim and he's able to draw some defenses in, he's able to do the dump off or he's able to go off high glass. And that I think is the best part about his game right now. It's not even about the shooting or whatnot. I think it's more about the facilitation.
They treat him like he's your number 3 overall pick from a couple of years ago. Instead of standing him in the corner and having him watch Julius Randle with his hands out like this, like maybe I'll get an open 3 on the quarter this time. It's like, nah, like actually play through him, see what he has, because this was at one point the best player in his class before Zion. Everybody saw Zion and we know how that went. And this is somebody who can do, like, I remember I was at then Dick's Nationals, and then they changed it to Geico Nationals, Dick's Sporting Goods, I should say, because, Anyway, so basically there was a tournament of high school basketball teams, the elite high school basketball teams, the 8. They bring them to Christ the King, et cetera, et cetera. RJ Barrett was there. PJ Washington was there. Jaren Jackson was there. A whole bunch of, from Lalu and Montverde and all these different guys, Scotty Barnes, et cetera, et cetera. And when I saw RJ, he was the best player there 2 years straight, including, or amongst a lot of different NBA guys there. So there's clearly something there. And 1 year he was a sophomore outplaying seniors. He just hadn't reclassed back up yet to be a senior, which he later did. I don't know why the Knicks didn't sort of figure this out sooner, but like he's been playing better now that they're actually playing through him more. I don't know what they're going to do with Julius Randle. I still think he's salvageable. I don't know what that looks like, but with most improved players, if you notice, it's very hard to like keep that level up. Like we saw with Pascal Siakam, it's like, all right, now you got to stay at this level. And he's kind of struggled with that a little bit. Though he's been better this year than I think people give him credit for. Same thing with Victor Oladipo. He got into the All-Star game the year after. And what I was like, wait, How is he? And then he ended up hurting his knee, and D'Angelo Russell's replacement anyway. But like Victor Oladipo, he wasn't quite the same guy after winning Most Improved either. It's hard to keep up that level. And I think, if you're the Knicks, RJ Barrett's also playing for an extension. You have to see whether or not you're going to give him a big contract this summer. So,
thank you, the New Yorker rant. I appreciate it. No, that's
not even a Knick fan, by the way. Not even.
Is that right?
No, I'm not.
I'm accused
of being a Heat fan nowadays.
Accused of being a Heat fan.
It was Nets, then it was Knicks, now it's Heat. It's just changing all the time. I don't know.
You know, my thing with Julius Randle is, has anyone seen Curb Your Enthusiasm?
I'm watching Seinfeld, but I haven't watched Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Okay, then the reference.
I'm watching Peacemaker. I haven't gotten to Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Really, you're actually watching that?
Yo, it's pretty good. I can't lie.
John Cena good?
Yeah. He's fun. If you enjoyed John Cena in Trainwreck, and if you enjoyed him obviously as a wrestler, then yes, you will enjoy Peacemaker. That's all I would say.
He was actually good.
Brian, we'll do another pod on wrestling at some point.
Oh yeah. Oh my, I'm dying to. I just want wrestling to be good again. We got the Royal Rumble in 2 days, Spencer. You know what I mean? Like,
and there's no marketing whatsoever.
None.
It's another conversation for another day.
Yeah.
Let's see what Russ does here. Right elbow jumper. Nope.
Miss. Contested.
But at least he hit the rim. This is good. I'm not even trying to be like condescending or like a-holy there. Like, I'm literally just happy to see him hit the rim. Like, there are the compilation of shots he's gone to from the left side, just hitting the top of the backboard. Like, as a fan of Russ and somebody who admires and loves Russ's attitude, I think he's great off the floor. Good dude.
He just made a 3-pointer.
He did. He just swished one from the left corner.
Yeah.
Like, I want to see the guy succeed. But, like, just watching that compilation, I'm just like, what is happening? Why are you still taking these shots is the second part that I'm asking. But, like, I don't know what else, he can do to kind of right the ship in that way. Other than, again, sticking to the fundamentals like we were talking about earlier in the episode here.
So what's our thoughts on Tobias Harris? Because I feel like 76ers fans are just eviscerating him.
I like Tobias. I'm also impartial because I talked to him over Zoom last year when I did the story on him and Boban's commercial.
Mm-hmm.
That was an awesome time, by the way. Boban's hilarious, and Tobias was great too. But like, so last year, you see Doc Rivers come into the fold, and when Tobias plays for Doc, it seems like he just becomes this like all-star caliber player. This year just doesn't seem to have the same consistency that he had last year. I think that's what I have noticed the most. He can come out and still do these things, and he can still, drive the lane and, take those pull-ups. But I don't know. It just seems like he's just not making the shots this year. I feel like he's getting okay looks.
Well, Philly fans are also killing him just because of the contract also. Like,
oh yeah. Well, they did that the first year. They did that the first year of the deal when Brett Brown was still coaching.
Like, it's the contract and then the Ben Simmons stuff on top of that. Because like, who are you going to take your anger out on that team, right? It's going to be probably Tobias Harris or Daryl Morey.
So he's being scapegoated, you think?
To some degree. I mean, look,
okay.
He should be playing better. I think he should be playing better. Like last year, people were trying to make like a dark horse all-star case for him. I remember around this time last year because he was playing well enough. And this year, we're not seeing any of that. So, yeah, I just think it's the consistency. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all about the consistency. And I think, too, it's probably not easy. And I'm not saying like this is like fault or anything because, when Joel Embiid is playing at the level he is, you got to get him the ball. Mm-hmm. It's hard to get a rhythm when somebody has a usage percentage of 36, 37. Like, it's hard to get a groove around somebody that has the ball that much, who's centered around that as the offense itself. I think there was a period of time last year too, where Joel Embiid missed like a good month or so. And that's when Tobias really took off. So I think that is difficult in and of itself. I think not having Ben around is also obviously a reason that you see Tobias dipping a little bit. Like I mentioned earlier, like seeing Maxey take that next step is awesome. Seeing Seth Curry being the catch shoot wizard that he is. But I think it's an ebb and flow type of deal with him right now. And I think, Joel is doing so much for this team right now that I feel like anybody around him just can't, they don't have the ball in their hands. They don't have the ability to have a consistent role, I guess. I don't know.
How do we see the situation like shaken out in Philly? Like obviously Ben Simmons, that trade situation, we've heard Tobias been thrown out there to maybe get some better offers. But if I was Daryl Morey, I mean, with the way Embiid's been playing the last 2 months, I think the time is now to kind of make that move, right? I mean, you would think the window is now. You don't know how long Embiid's going to be playing this way. Big guys usually have a peak of a couple of years. I mean, if I was Daryl Morey, I would take the best offer I could in the next 2 weeks.
I call Ben Simmons he who must not be named on my Keeping It 94 podcast with Brian. Just because after that playoff series last year and, the comments started, the public comments that came out from his own locker room, I was like, okay, I feel Ben a little bit on this. I feel Ben a little bit. Like, you can keep that in-house and stuff like that. And then, for the organization to say, oh, no, we want to make it work. We want to make it work. That just created an awkward environment. And then here we are. It's January 27th of the new year, and we're still nowhere near a resolution here. Daryl talking about, that he'll ride this out. He still feels the same way. And he's not going to, give in to anybody's demands. I believe him. I don't think Ben's going anywhere by deadline. Even with all of the talk and the rumor mill and whatnot, but he'd be able to get a decent package right now. I think so. Because there's so many teams that are in it. We mentioned it at the beginning. Like, just look at the standings. The East, they're like, I think 1-7 separated by less than 4 games. Like, that's ridiculous. If they're a team in the Eastern Conference, you definitely want to look at that. And Sixers probably would prefer to send him out west because they don't want to see him. So an offer would probably be a little higher in the Eastern Conference. But out west, I feel like if you want to compete with the Suns and you want to compete with the Warriors and even the Grizzlies, you have to make a move like that to push yourself over the top.
Given as good as Joel Embiid has been playing, and given the injury history, like, you can't just wait this out. You can't. You have to just take whatever the best package is, whether it's Tyrese Halliburton and a bunch of stuff, whether it's like whatever it is, you just have to do it now, because you may never get, like, you don't know how many more seasons. I said this earlier. You don't know how many more seasons you're going to get from Joel Embiid like this, because he's going to be somebody who turns 28 this year, and his body's already dealt with a lot. He's somebody who he's another one. Like, every year he'll get dinged up at some point. He'll miss, 10, 15, 20 games. Unfortunately, occasionally more. And like, that's sort of what it is, right? You have to, like, he's one of these guys. You have to sort of cash in on that now as soon as you can. And you have an entire max roster spot just sitting there. Conceivably, if you turn it into anything productive, it's like, all right, now the Sixers can maybe compete with Joel Embiid playing like this. Maybe they could compete now with the Nets, the Heat, and the Bucks. And that's ultimately what you want, is to launch yourself into that group. Like, you should be ahead of where Cleveland is. You have Joel Embiid, but you're not right now. And that's because Daryl Morey is sort of sitting there, waiting it out. And I don't think people are holding him accountable enough. It's like, dude,
they're not buying his bluff.
Before you overuse Joel Embiid and he has like a fatigue, wear and tear injury, which we're seeing a lot of around the league, these soft tissue injuries that are putting guys out for 4 to 6 to 8 weeks, like, get him some help. And that's part of the Tobias Harris thing we were talking about earlier too. It's like, the guys around him aren't being consistent enough. So he's now averaging over his last several games 35 and whatever, like, just killing people in a league where it's like, oh, can you win with a dominant center? And it's, look at Joel Embiid. So yeah, get him some help.
And that's a fair question too, because I mean, you're looking at we're getting into February now, but what does this look like in April? If he continues to have the same minute load, if he continues to have the same usage, and then all of a sudden you're getting close to playoff time and he's fatigued or something, like, we see how the body reacts when you have such a large workload. I mean, shoot, how long were we talking about KD and how many minutes he was playing? And he was like, dude, play me the whole game. And then what happened? I feel like we don't talk about that enough, and bless KD for wanting to be on the floor for that long, but you just have to think about how the human body reacts, especially for someone who post Achilles injury.
Post Achilles and post gold medal run also. Like played extra basketball during the summer, right?
Right.
Like,
I think that had some sort of contributing factor to what happened. So I don't want to see that happen to someone like a Joel Embiid or even a Nikola Jokic. Like, these guys that are going out there and playing a ton. So that's just my feeling on the Embiid situation. And I completely agree. Morey's got to at least get like a secondary or tertiary superstar. Like, just get somebody else on that team. Somebody else.
Yeah, what do we think is like a player that makes sense like that? Is like a De'Aaron Fox, a Jeremy Grant?
Yes.
I don't think it's
I'm just going to say yes.
Some people say it's a bonus, but I don't think that makes sense at all, putting him with Embiid. But it has to, I think like Fox or Grant or someone like that definitely would make the most sense to me.
Fox and Hield. I see like Halliburton and Hield. I know that the money doesn't really match up, but there are reports out of Sacramento that they'd take on Tobias's contract. So both of them, why not? Fox and Hield.
If that's the case,
where are the Kings going right now?
Right.
I know they want to strike and bring in a superstar, but like, where are they going? I feel like all options are on the table for them. Hell, Harrison Barnes. Barnes would be a good fit with them.
Yeah, like, if you're throwing in Tobias Harris and you need to make the numbers work, you might as well just throw in Harrison Barnes and Buddy Hield and De'Aaron Fox and call it like that.
That'd be a coup. But like, you send some draft, it would. But you send some draft capital back to him, and you think that Ben Simmons still has that all-star capability, that defensive capability that they've been looking for. You pair that with Davion Mitchell, like that actually could be a really good, backcourt at some point. Like, who knows? But I feel like that's their most logical trade partner would be Sacramento. That's just my thought.
No, for
sure. What do you guys think of Matt's boy going there this summer? You see the reports they're waiting on Harden this summer, possibly.
Interesting, because okay, so I feel like JoJo is not used in pick and rolls as much as centers that would be with Harden. Like Harden's ball dominant, but look at this possession right here. Joel Embiid just using his shoulder and putting up a mid-ranger. Like, that wouldn't happen with Harden. He would be like, Harden is the guy that does the pocket passes to guys that roll to the rim. I feel like Joel Embiid isn't a rim runner, like, he's not that type of player. So I don't know about the fit. I mean, obviously James Harden is amazing, and you make it work. But I feel like those two would be just kind of button heads as far as ball dominance goes.
Also, personalities, I have some questions. Like, are we sure they would get along and like each other?
That's a good question, Brian. That's a good question.
That's the first thing I go to, like, before we get into the basketball stuff. Because here's, like, look, like basketball, yes, it matters on the court. But, like, a lot of the off-the-court stuff, like when we're doing, trades and stuff like that, like, we have to remember also, and I could fall victim to this occasionally too, it's not 2K. Like, guys not have to like each other, but have to be able to, want to play with each other on some level, right? I don't know if Harden and Embiid, like, I don't know what the answer is, but I don't know if they would like each other. I think it would be a movie to try to find out, though. I think it'd be very interesting. I don't know, though. I don't know if it'll work, if I'm being honest.
Embiid isn't Giannis, though, so
I wouldn't be too worried about on the court. I mean, I feel like Harden showed, at least in Brooklyn, that he's capable of scaling back, taking on a lower usage. He's an intelligent basketball player, so he knows how to play within
a lot of miles on the tires too, man.
Yeah, that's the one big one for me. I feel like he's starting to slow down, not as much as like people say, but he's definitely not 2018, 2019 Harden. But you made a really good point, Spencer, about the pick and roll thing, and that's what I think with Tobias, because Tobias had his best year with the Clippers that first half of the season when he was running a ton of pick and rolls, and I think that's his best bet because he's such a good like pull up mid range shooter, good pull up 3-point shooter, and he can make like simple passes. Honestly, other than Embiid, I mean, you could make a case that Harris is probably their best playmaker right now, and that's not a good sign whatsoever. But
No,
I don't know. That's
no, it's
just a
not.
thought.
By the
So
way,
they probably
gentlemen,
want a playmaker.
yeah, no question. By the way, gentlemen, as predicted earlier, AD is back on the floor. So, like I said, so I'm going back to the locker room. You obviously get scared. But I feel like, again, this happens probably 15 to 20 times for him in a season. So glad to see him back out there. Joel Embiid just took it right into his grill, though, underneath and got to the foul line. And by the way, how many times has this guy gotten to the foul line in January? he is just forcing the issue. He's just been so fun to watch for me. I mean, I know we were talking in sense of trades and fit with Harden, but just individually watching what he's done, it's crazy to me because he is the size of your traditional center. But if you watch how good he's gotten with the ball in his hands, breaking guys down, my favorite move that he does is always the pull-up 15-footer. Like he gets defenders back on their toes, and as soon as he gets a little bit of space, he'll do this like fadeaway looking jumper, and it's usually just nothing but net. But even getting off the ball, I feel like him getting like those cuts, not only just when he's underneath, but like the way that he's receiving the ball from his teammates, he's just improved in all facets. And then you talk about defensive impact too. He's just all around, I think, and that's why he's in this MVP discussion. And not to tap myself on the back too hard, but like literally 2-3 weeks ago, like I was talking about this with Brian. I'm like, him and Jokic are doing it like again. It's the second straight year that they've done this. I was like, you can manufacture a clip that I said on our podcast last year at this point and just put it back out there. And I'm saying the exact same stuff. It's incredible what these two are doing.
Yeah, what's your guys' thoughts on this MVP race? Because quite honestly, I feel like this is the most fun MVP race we've seen in a really long time. I mean, Embiid, Curry, Ja Morant's a dark horse. You want to throw him in there, Jokic, Giannis. Like, I think it can go either way over the last 3 months of the season, quite honestly. I mean, this is one of the more fun ones I've seen.
Well, it's weird because like at first, I think beginning of the year, a lot of us thought, okay, Steph's gonna win it. He was shooting the lights out of the ball. Golden State's defense, they were doing really good. They were firing on all cylinders, and they were going toe to toe with the Suns. But the Suns, because of the way the team's structured, more egalitarian, nobody really stands out to that level. But and then he slowed down. Jokic has like voter fatigue, and I mean, I don't know what people just don't like Jokic for some reason, like his game. They hate the fact that he's built like that and he might be the best player in the world. Giannis is like kind of that LeBron status now where he's like transcended MVP awards. Like, oh, we don't give it to him anymore because, we got to give it to other guys. That thing we were doing with LeBron when he was the best player in the world, clearly. But and then KD, he's hurt now. So it's weird. Embiid, Embiid's weird because they're all weird, but Embiid's weird because like people always do a thing where, oh, he's not on a good team. You have to be in a top 3 team to be the MVP, but he's not. But people see that what he's working with isn't optimal. And I mean, we talked about it. The way he's getting to the line right now, I was comparing him to some other all-time great big men, and his free throw rates and his scoring rates, like per possession, they've like surpassed Shaq levels at this point. It's amazing.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was so obviously the Bucks were here in Cleveland last night and saw that game and not to talk about the Cavs too much unless you guys want me to get into that, but the passes that Giannis were making, I was like, when did he start doing this stuff? Like he had a left-handed pass to Middleton from like cross court, and I was like, holy hell, where'd this come from? Because they were getting him off the ball. They were playing him more like a center last year, and he was making plays out of the pick and roll when he was getting to the basket. But like, I'm talking about like just single possessions where he was dribbling it up and just, if that was a proper way to show it on camera. But I'm telling you, look up this pass from the first quarter I was like, dang, And then I went like even further and just like looking more film, and he's been really upping his passing, just like bullets, dude. Like really good. And if he gets that aspect of his game down, I think we know by now that he's not going to be your best pull-up three-point shooter. But if he adds that passing element into his game, that just unlocks even more.
He started doing that, like I would say second half of that second round series against Brooklyn, because they were gapping so much that he kind of like he had to start making those kickouts, even if it's to like PJ Tucker in the corner. He started making those reads. And I feel like in a weird way, like even though that was the right strategy for the Nets, it like unlocked something for him. You could like see it throughout the series. It was really fun to watch. And it's interesting he's carried that with him. So I feel like that was like a big one of those series for him where he's going to look back and say, yeah, that was when I unlocked this part of my game. It's been super fun to watch for me because that's what I notice every time also now.
It's cool because like when you see guys his size and like those bulkier guys learn how to control their strength, not be bulls in a china shop, like that I think is huge. When you get to know you harness these things and you're able to, find your teammates on the outside.
Yeah, well, the thing that's like interesting about Giannis's like career trajectory to me is, he started out with Jay Kidd as his head coach. Jay Kidd has this like fetish where he likes to see himself in all like the super athletic like ball handling guys that he coaches. So Kidd tried to turn him into this like heliocentric guy, and I think it stopped when obviously Budenholzer was the coach, but when the Raptors did the wall against him, and they realized that he wasn't at the time smart enough as a basketball player, as a floor reader to make the proper kick out every time. But so they turned him into like more of a Shaq, a play finisher, and obviously we've seen what that's done. But now that I think that he's mastered that level of play finishing, and now his processing's improving, he's got more reps. It's cool to start seeing them putting him more in those playmaking spots they were putting him in early in his career.
I would agree. Another guest, gentlemen. Welcome on, Mr. Mark Schindler. Is he also muted? Oh, he's doing the mat. We've gotten two. We still can't hear you.
There we go. Can you hear me now? I didn't realize that was
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What's going on, Mark?
Andrew Wiggins is an all-star. I just got out of a podcast like 10 minutes ago and found out about that.
I feel like this is the recurring theme of the basketballnews.com NBA watch party. Andrew Wiggins is an all-star starter. What the hell?
Yeah.
I feel like that's the theme of this.
Very well, I guess it should have been expected how the fan vote was going, but it was wild, man. I was not ready for that.
We can recycle the rant that Brian had. Woo, AD 20. Looks like he's good to me. Looks like the wrist is okay. Embiid's still just out muscling him though. Oh my god.
Ooh, man, he's had some nice blocks since he's got back. I swear he does that just to get breathers. Like he has like an injury and then he goes back and then he comes out fine. I swear it's just for breathers. I don't know what it fully is, but maybe it is just the pain tolerance thing.
Yeah. No, like I said, it's endurance. It's the pain tolerance.
He gives me such Kawhi vibes where they're both like when they're like healthy and they're right, it's like, okay, are they the best player in the world? And then the problem is they're only right for like 15 games, 20 games in a row. But no, he's awesome.
I'll just throw out there, like we've also seen, I don't know if you've noticed, some really bad passes in this game. Like just a lot of passes that have gone out of bounds that weren't even close to go into.
Like that one on the fast break where Thibault got the steal and then immediately just tossed it
to the
scorer's table.
He tossed it to the bench, and then whoever that I don't know if that was Russ, but somebody tried to throw Malik Monk an alley-oop, and that was more like a home run. Like, I don't know what.
I was looking for Calvin Johnson instead.
We've seen some really bad passes in this game. Like, I don't know.
Embiid might be the best player on the floor right now, for better or worse.
He had a beautiful. 22. I don't know if you saw. He had a beautiful bounce pass in between two defenders to Matisse Thybulle. That was just like right in rhythm. Just hit him just perfectly, and then Thybulle finished it up with a dunk. Like Embiid's. I feel like he's having a much better game than his numbers show so far, but I feel like those numbers are going to catch up. Like I'm sensing a big third quarter because I think he seems like he's tired of Anthony Davis at this point.
It looks like he's got a nice little cut on his hand.
That's a battle scar.
That's a real battle scar. That might get stitches. The way I'm looking at that one, that looked deep.
But he's been
No,
doing
this is a good. This is a
thing.
good battle, though. It's a battle between two completely different types of bigs, too. I think that's what makes this really exciting and enticing. So I'm glad that AD's playing real well, because we won't have to talk about reserves hopefully in the next half or whatever for whoever is staying, of course. But this has been pretty good so far. Just seeing the individual effort of AD.
Yeah, but he's been doing this thing where he's like starting off on the left side of the court, Embiid that is. He'll take his little dribble towards the rim, he collapses the defense, and those one-handed passes he makes, his hands are so big and so
that's
cool.
nasty.
It's like I'll think about myself. I'm like, I can't even palm a basketball, and the things he can do. It's just, man.
I love watching him up his playmaking too, almost like Jokic.
Mhm.
Like he's not, obviously no one's on the level of Jokic, but like similarly, like just passing out of the post, finding guys that are off the ball. Like that's also been another element for me, I think, with Embiid just adding to his game.
Yeah, we're blessed with so many great passing big men now. I mean, those two.
They're bringing the big man back, man.
Yeah. Jakob Poeltl, Isaiah Hartenstein.
So underrated.
Hartenstein is an underrated passer.
All those
I'd go
little,
as far without saying Sabonis. Come on, man.
Sabonis, Jared Allen for my Cleveland friends. He's actually a really underrated passer.
I'm glad you mentioned Hartenstein, because I didn't think much of his game. I obviously hadn't seen enough of him because he was stuck behind Jokic. But when he was with the Cavs last year, like he has these like really nice little pocket, like two-hand like pocket passes, bounce passes that just find guys when they make diagonal cuts. And I'm like, oh wow, he's got some good vision. All right, we are at half, gentlemen. Sorry to cut you off. Just wanted to give everybody a scoring update. 54-48, officially there at half. Looks like the Lakers cannot buy one from deep. They're 1 of 10 from the three-point line, but luckily they do have Anthony Davis, who's going to work. He's got 23 points and 5 boards, 10 of 13 from the field, and a couple of blocks. Only other Lakers that are really contributing, honestly, are Russell Westbrook with 7, 3 assists, and 2 rebounds. You have Malik Monk with 6, and Carmelo also has 6. Leading the Sixers is Joel Embiid, 13 points, 6 boards, 4 assists, a steal and a block on 5 of 11 from the field. And Tobias Harris has 11 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, and is 5 of 9 from the field. So that is your halftime score. I'd like to remind everybody that this basketballnews.com NBA watch party for Lakers-Sixers is powered by TicketSmarter, which helps customers from all walks of life experience the excitement of live events. Buying with TicketSmarter is quick and easy, and the tickets are 100% guaranteed. Find tickets to more than 125,000 concerts, sports, and theater events. If you want tickets to the hottest live events, be sure to check out TicketSmarter, the official marketplace of basketballnews.com. Jets, we've made it this far. We are at halftime. Thank you, by the way, for being with me here as Alex is recuperating from a illness. Hopefully he feels better here soon. But we have discussed a number of things. Anything that is on your mind when we get to halftime here. We've talked about the all-star starters. We've mentioned stuff. Philly, LA. We talked about the Nets at length. Anything that you guys want to hit on in particular that's on your mind?
I mean, Spencer, I want to give you the floor a little bit. I mean, the Cavaliers are the story of the NBA right now. I mean, go on your soapbox. I want to hear it.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's simple. It's honestly just buy-in. It's buy-in. Like, no matter what your experience level is, no matter who's on the floor, no matter who they're facing, they just have this synergy, and they just play with such a grit. Like, I tweeted it out this morning because I actually wasn't able to watch the game live. I had to watch it on replay. But watching that game, there was one play that stood out to me. And no, it wasn't them making 19 threes. It wasn't Darius Garland making these stupid, crazy, these crevices he finds in his passes are ridiculous. But it's Lamar Stevens hustling from the perimeter to try and block Giannis, who received a pass from Drew Holiday. The Cavs were up 95-74 with 37 seconds left. And any other team in the league, I would argue any other team in the league just lets Giannis have a dunk there. Like, I want you guys to find that play after this is over. Like, it's so impressive because, one, Lamar anticipated it, but two, for Lamar to hustle and actually do it, despite having that 21-point lead with 37 seconds left in the third quarter. I just think it's just a testament to what this team's about, and it's just them playing with pride. They don't view themselves as an underdog like the rest of the world may have. We're almost 50 games in, and them being where they're at, being 30-win team, and being in the top 4 of the Eastern Conference and doing what they're doing, they have a self-belief, man, and they haven't changed their mindset whatsoever. This has been the same way since the start of training camp. Like, they were telling us, it's like, you're gonna see. And a lot of people are finding out quickly that the effort's been consistent. The defensive abilities that they have been consistent no matter who's been on the floor. And yeah, a lot of that is due to Jared Allen and Evan Mobley. I think, as I've said on past podcasts and shows, that Lauri Markkanen did not get nearly enough credit for the way that he's stopped wings out on the perimeter and been able to cut off those driving lanes. He's obviously going to be missed here with his ankle injury, but Dean Wade, like always, steps into the starting lineup and is able to pick up the slack on that end. And then you probably are going to need another ball handler for this team, because Darius Garland, his usage rate, it's going to catch up to him. That's why they went out and got Rondo. Obviously, when you lose Ricky Rubio and Colin Sexton to season-ending injuries, that's a tough break. But I think they'll be sniffing around deadline time, but I don't think they're going to make like a major move, if that makes sense. I don't think trading away somebody that is not only just a part of this core, but even the vets that mean so much that behind the scenes, I don't know if I see him touching it. So we'll see where they're at. They just got a disabled player exception for Rubio for about $8.5 million. That I think can help them around buyout time. You have veterans that aren't in rotations right now, like a Thad Young could make sense. You're scanning around the league, and I don't know what guards become available yet. I haven't really dug into it, but I don't think Rondo's their only move, but I also think that they're just going to make a move around the edges. My primary target for them has always been, someone down in Orlando, whether that's Terrence Ross or Gary Harris. I've been saying that for months now. But from a ball handling perspective, I can't really think of anybody off the top of my head.
Maybe like a Karis LeVert. I know that's been kind of floating
Yeah.
out there a little bit.
No, they definitely have interest. They have interest. It depends on what they want to give up. At the rate too that they're seeing Isaac grow into this role perfectly the way he has, especially on the defensive end, and starting to make those reads from the corners and make those passes from the corners. I think the analogy I made, and this is so corny, and forgive me for this, is you don't want to pull the wrong piece in the Jenga board. You don't want to do that. Because messing with something as organic and as natural as this is, I think would be a mistake. So if you can go out and get a LeVert, sure. But it sounds like they're asking for a haul for him in Indiana. And I know that this is, the NBA and you have to strike while the iron's hot. But I don't even think that it'd be smart to move Rubio's contract, because I think that would anger some people in the locker room. I think Darius has gotten extremely close to him. I think Isaac, all these guys that have played with Rubio admire him. Kevin Love. I don't know if that sends the right message. I know that he has a large contract, but I don't know if that sends the right message. We'll see. But the team itself, man, they've been a blast to watch. They're just a good mix. They're a good mix together, and they are. There's somebody you didn't see coming, but it's fun to watch them grow. It's fun to watch an organic team grow, and Matt can probably attest to this. But like when the Nets started to find it out, maybe they didn't find it out at this rate, but that team with Karis LeVert and Joe Harris and Jared Allen and Dinwiddie, like when they started clicking, like. and Jarrett actually described the Cavs as one of those Nets teams last year. So it's kind of cool to have him bank back on that. But they're just fun to watch, and they're just extremely disciplined and smart and intelligent. Like that's the most I can say.
Mm-hmm. Well, Matt can probably back me up on this. I know Karras keeps getting pitched to Cleveland, and I just do not like the fit at all from a Cleveland perspective. It's been a weird year for Karras for sure, and I know like there's definitely a lot of background stuff that's had an impact on it too. That whole team is just a clusterfuck. Sorry, I did not even think if I'm allowed to swear on here. But like I don't know, just what you would have to give up to get him contract wise. Like you're either giving up Chetty or Rubio, and both players like you mentioned, the locker room impact is so huge from Rubio, just from everything that's come out. Chetty has been like such like to put. I don't think we could if there was like a polar opposite from last year award. It's Chetty Osman, man. Like just where he was last year compared to this year is like insane. And
I
like
thought his production was going to dip too when Rubio left.
Yeah,
he was catching passes. Rondo was throwing passes from the left side of the floor to the right side of the floor. Chetty all night on Wednesday, and Chetty was just waiting there in the wings because the Bucks were just overloading that side of the floor. But
yeah.
No, he has a tendency to be inconsistent, but this year, there's just a whole nother belief that he has at the moment.
Yeah, no, it's been cool to see, man.
But sorry for interrupting.
No, you're good. I just, he's really hard to factor in if he doesn't have the ball in his hands, and it just is rarely quite where you need it to be with him with his ball in his hands, with the ball in his hands for it to matter as much. And like you mentioned about like not messing with a good thing, like I don't know, man. I'm not like I like Karras and he's a good dude, but I just don't see the fit with this team. And I would be very worried about how it would impact the offensive flow and defensively too. Karras needs to be roasted for his defense because it's absolutely terrible right now.
It's been bad since Brooklyn.
He hasn't tagged the low man since he was in Brooklyn. I will say that much. So it's been a minute.
The closeouts are bad. Yeah, it's I don't know. He's a weird player in that he's like, I feel like I've been asking for him to go to the rim more for like the entire tenure. I don't know if that's still holding true in Indy.
Oh, it's still holding true.
But like that, yeah, he loves.
Man has not seen a 7-footer he doesn't want to take. So
yeah. So I don't know. He's a weird player to evaluate, and like some of the pick and roll reads can like come and go. He's kind of just a come and go player. Like and I think part of that is, sorry, my dog is yapping right now. I might need
it's okay. Alex's dog yaps all the time on these shows. So it's just par for the course. BasketballNews.com watch party.
And she's filling in. Anyways, it's just like I think part of it is just like that he's missed so much time. Because of that, he just has no consistency, even just with his play. I think it's really affected him. He's like missed little couple month periods every single year. And it's just, I don't know. I think it makes it really hard for him to get a rhythm.
Yeah.
There any other trade rumors that you guys are seeing? I mean, we hit on the Simmons ones earlier. Jeremy Grant's a big name at the moment. But
did you talk about the John Collins thing?
No, go ahead, please.
I feel like the only reason, sorry, I've been thinking about this all day.
Yeah, I know you wanted to write something about it.
I did, yeah. I just think it's going to be a massive mistake for Atlanta to trade John Collins for Jeremy Grant. Like, I think the only way that it would make sense, obviously, like, I mean, it's like much like Miles Turner, John Collins has talked about openly wanting a bigger role, and I'm sure that factors into it too. But like, he's the reason that their offense flows. Like, obviously, Trey is the best player on that team. He stirs the drink, but like, I can't imagine that offense without John Collins being part of it. Like, he glues together so much for them. I'd argue that he's on balance a more valuable defender to me than Jeremy Grant is. Like, I don't know, man. It's so weird. I don't know what to make of the Hawks right now.
Anybody got a response for that one on John Collins? Because
I'm not saying I agree or disagree, but can you like dive into he's a better defender on balance than Jeremy Grant?
I just don't. Jeremy's kind of overrated as a defender, and he has been for a while. Which overrated, underrated is always like a kind of unfair thing to say, but like, I think he's solid on the ball. He's gotten worse in Detroit with higher usage, which makes sense. But like he does some weak side rim protection stuff. But like I just think like John has been like for most of this year, he's been a pretty good defender. Like he doesn't bring like versatility in terms of guarding smaller players or anything like that. But I mean, he closes out well. He helps at the rim way better than Jeremy does. And I just don't think you like get enough from the offensive offset. Like I guess Jeremy maybe brings more utility in doing stuff on the perimeter, but I mean, I don't know. I feel like Collins and Capella as a backline is pretty solid. I've enjoyed it. I think it's been more about their point of attack defense. Even Hunter's figured some of that out for them too, but
he's so important to that damn team.
Yeah.
He is so important to that team. And notice, he comes back and they go on this little roll. Obviously, Trey's the Eastern Conference Player of the Week, but I mean, for them to figure that stuff out, yeah, you kind of need, your second best offensive threat to be out on the floor with you. But I'm kind of wondering myself here, though, like, is the difference in what the types of players that Jeremy guards and the types of players that John guards, does that have any kind of impact on how you evaluate him? Because I feel like Jeremy's going to take on the first or second best player, and John might be, more.
Yeah, John's like a better team defender.
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. That's exactly what I was asking. Yeah.
But I think that's why it's more valuable to me. Like, I feel like they need more of that. Like, DeAndre has been awesome playing up on top options. But, I mean, you're right, too, like, figuring out the point of attack. I just, like, I guess to me, it's more like I would so much rather figure that out by not trading John Collins. But, yeah, doesn't seem like it's going to go that way. Doesn't seem like it. What's the other big ones that have been in there? Is just everything revolving around the Kings right now? Is that all it is? Like Kings and Simmons? Like, is there anything else that's juicy?
I do have, remember Spencer, I do have Rashawn Holmes.
You do
tomorrow.
Oh, go ahead, go ahead and plug your stuff.
I mean, well, it's just trying to figure out. I don't know why they want to trade Rashawn Holmes anyway, but I figured like they just want to trade everybody they can at this point. But yeah, it's a story on Rashawn Holmes and where he could go in a few places that make sense. All of whom are playoff teams. So look out for that tomorrow. But yeah, I think the Sacramento Kings, like I never know what they're doing. They have this ridiculously long playoff drought that goes back to, I think, probably the Kevin Martin days. And that's a long ass time ago. So like they're a team where it's like, I don't know. All right, so we're going to do the rebuild thing again. And who's going to be overseeing this? Who's going to be this person and whatever. So that's why I'm like, I'm glad that Tyrese Halliburton, at least we can be like, oh, okay, they found something there. You just almost wish that he was in a better environment. We were talking about Philly earlier, and we didn't mention him as much as one of the guys that can go there. But I actually think that if Philly, wanted to put him beside Joel Embiid and whatever else they got back, that would make a lot of sense. If Philly was like, hey, we'll take Halliburton instead of Fox, which I don't know was the case, that would make a lot of sense to me. I can see that, especially since he's a better shooter. Like I can see that being a thing. Now, I don't know if that means Halliburton's necessarily ready now because he's in year 2. So it's like, all right, maybe you want more experience. But I was looking, like Spencer, you and I were talking about this earlier. Like I was looking at some of those advanced numbers, and I'm not somebody who, overvalues that stuff and think that basketball is played on a spreadsheet. I will say that a lot of those advanced numbers, like Tyrese Halliburton more than De'Aaron Fox, and you can do with that what you will. And we saw what happened when De'Aaron Fox was out for a period of time. Tyrese Halliburton upped his play and was playing well. He was playing really well at one point. So, yeah, the Kings have some interesting players that could be up for grabs that I'm watching that I feel like could be more valuable in different situations. Buddy Hield, who I mentioned in the story that's dropping tomorrow, is somebody who I think could be paired with Rashawn Holmes to a team particular in the Western Conference that I think that he's not having a great season this year, but I think that there are other teams where he just fits better who need shooting, and damn near everybody in the NBA needs shooting. Harrison Barnes, same thing. So you can go on and on with the Kings, I suppose.
Yeah, on and on and on. And it's funny you mention that because I still don't know if now I know that Sacramento would be willing to do it, and the team that gets De'Aaron Fox will probably be really happy because he's going to be rejuvenated and a new environment or whatever. If that is the case, that he does go elsewhere. But I feel like if you trade away De'Aaron Fox, you're putting a lot on Halliburton's shoulders to be
Mhm.
the franchise guy right now, which is tough. Unless you do get a Ben Simmons back, like don't get me wrong.
It's the Kings.
But
Like-
yeah, no, like that's a lot. I view Halliburton in that like Brogdon-esque type of way, to where he's the kind of the maestro. Yeah, he's got the amazing, pull-ups going on, and he's able to put some pressure on the rim. But I don't know if like superstar, type of player is where he's at the moment. So that'd be a lot of pressure, I think, for him if De'Aaron Fox went elsewhere, or like he had the keys to the castle, basically. We are back in Philly, by the way, gentlemen, and it is a 2-point game. So how about that? We're not talking about the bench guys right now. Let's see here. Maxey over to Embiid. Good find. In the corner. See that usually? Oh, no. What are you guys making of the game so far? I guess we talked about the game, but we've been talking about trades and stuff. Joel looks like he's going to kill that ref. By the way, while we do have this little period going on, let's not forget this is basketballnews.com's NBA Watch Party, powered by Prize Picks and Ticket Smarter. So thank you to you guys. Basketballnews.com, man, we've got it going right now. We are hammering that website with features and player interviews and film breakdowns that you're just not going to find anywhere else. So make sure you visit basketballnews.com. We've also got a great podcast network. 11 podcasts for you to listen to. I know it's a lot, but I promise you, each and every one of them is worth your while. So make sure you go like, subscribe, rate, review those. Hopefully the guys on here can attest to the wonderfulness that is basketballnews.com. And they've all done great work for us. So just a little pat on the back there for everybody at basketballnews.com. And hopefully the new guys are enjoying it.
Yeah, it's been a great experience for sure. It's very for me personally, it's very motivating to like work alongside people that are. It's just like a super talented group of people. So it's like it's very motivating in that way where I can just go to the website that I write at and read something and say, "Ooh, I got like, ooh, that's a really good way of framing that," or it's a really good clip that person's grabbed. It's been fun. I've really enjoyed it so far.
And we have enjoyed your work.
Thank you. Hopefully,
Absolutely.
hoping to do a Suns thing. I've kind of like I've just been working through it at games. I was working through just looking at historical stats during the Denver Brooklyn game yesterday, so I'm hoping to get it done tomorrow.
I gotcha. Well, we got another guest, guys. Justin, welcome, sir. How you doing?
What's up, guys?
What's up, man?
Welcome on. I like the USA kit there you got on, repping the team a little bit.
Yeah, they just wrapped it up. Finally, it went final.
Oh, awesome. Hopefully a W.
1-0 W.
All right. We'll take it. What you making of the game so far, man?
61-54. I figured this would be a lot more of a blowout in the favor of the Sixers with no LeBron, but I'm glad it's somewhat competitive on national broadcast.
No, that's what we were saying too. AD going to work. Oh, nice steal by Matisse there. God, he's so good at that. His anticipation skills and the way that he. Wait, who is the writer for Basketball News that did that? Someone said that he phases. He doesn't even get from one place to another. He phases. Matisse is so good off the ball though.
What do we make of his All NBA case, All NBA defense case?
Ooh.
I'm not there.
You don't think so?
I don't
Who are
think
your All NBA defense?
He got it last year, didn't he?
Yeah. I thought he was a lot better last year defensively. He's still been okay. I mean, like good this year, but by his standards, I don't think he's been all NBA, considering that he has to, like, how little he plays compared to other guys. I'm not there.
say he's going to need to take a step offensively too, I think.
Yeah. Well, that's part of the
Yeah.
problem too. Like if
Like-
you were actually able to be on the court for like 28 or 30 minutes a game, maybe it's different.
Like he's going to trend towards that Roberson type of, archetype in a way.
Yep.
He's been doing a little bit of stuff out of the dunker spot with Embiid. I'll give it to him there, but you guys are right. He does need to do a little bit more offensively to stay on the court. But honestly, I would say, I don't know, man. I feel like he's at least what he was last year defensively to me. Wow.
Say I want to see more Isaiah Joe. I was joking about that.
I
earlier,
would
but
love
do want
to see more Isaiah
Joe. Just watching him at Summer League, I was like, dang. Because as did what was it? Maxey played a couple of games there, and we interviewed him there, and he was just talking up and down about Isaiah Joe. Parched. Justin, is there anything particularly on your mind before you get in here? We pretty much hit like every subject other than talking about the game. And by the way, AD's got 27-7. Everybody that's watching, he's off to a great start. But Embiid just had a nice little backdoor pass to, I believe that was Maxey that finished at the rim, so that was nice. But got anything you want to talk about, Justin? So I talked about the Cavs. How about you talk about the Grizz? Because that's the team that you're closest affiliation with, and that's the other team that's opening a lot of eyes at the moment.
Yeah, man. They Zach Kleiman has put together something special from 1 through like 17 in our organization. Just the constant ability to just plug guys in when we're missing people. When Ja goes down for 12, 13 games, you expect to maybe go 500, best case scenario, and they went 11-2, something like that. He's found guys that fit a certain mold in the locker room, and they all love playing with each other. They love each other off the court. And they just, I don't know what with them, with their 3 first-round draft picks in this upcoming draft and some expiring contracts in Tyus Jones and Kyle Anderson. What are they going to do? Are they going to make a push now, seeing that the West might be a little bit more open and the Lakers aren't as good as maybe they should be? Or are they going to remain on the current track and just be patient and let Ja and Jaren and Desmond Bane continue to grow and see what happens there? I think that's the interesting thing for us to watch, because I can see them making a move and I can see them doing absolutely nothing and just running with this group all the way through.
Sure thing. And that's the other point too, that, I think that a lot of people are forgetting, is that Dylan Brooks has barely played. That's a guy that was so crucial to their playoff success last year, or their late run and then the play-in tournament. That's the thing about the Grizzlies that's so nice, is that there is that plug and play element, and particularly one player too that got kind of phased out last year with Valanciunas being there, was Brandon Clark. I'm happy to see Brandon Clark getting these minutes now, and he's really giving them some solid energy off the bench. Athletic as hell, obviously, able to catch lobs and play some solid defense. So I'm happy to see Brandon Clark getting the minutes he's getting. But you can literally find anybody on that team and talk the world about him. John Conchar. I was just gonna say, dude's got a nickname, Jitty. They've got like some good vibes going on over there, and it's, again, like we were just talking about. I was talking about the Cavs up and down. Like that's the other small market team that's doing the big thing right now, and they're kind of mirroring each other in that way, I feel.
Yeah, and I think it's important with trade deadline being real close that people understand that trades aren't necessarily linear. And when they traded Valanciunas and got Steven Adams back and plugged him in and then moved up to get Zaire Williams in the draft, people were like, well, why'd they give up the best player in that deal? And Steven Adams just didn't fit in New Orleans. And the coaching staff has done a good job of using him here, unlocking his passing, him and Desmond Bane. I did a feature at SB Nation that talked about them being the 3rd best duo with a big passing to the wing.
He's always coming off those curls underneath. He like hides.
Those little backdoor passes. Yeah, it's a lot of fun to watch. And it wasn't about, who was the best player. It was about giving Jaren Jackson more time at the 5. It was about giving Brandon Clark more minutes on the floor, because Steven Adams isn't a part of the future for them. So yeah, like you said, Jitty has been awesome. John Conchar is a lot of fun. Memphis is doing some cool stuff. I do have a question about the Lakers, and I want y'all's feedback on this. I don't know if y'all talked about it. Does Russell Westbrook have any trade value whatsoever left, or is that gone?
I would say there's slim to none. I mean, unless it's John Wall. I mean, there's nothing else I could really see out there that makes any sense. They're kind of locked in with him, I have to imagine.
Should have heard Matt Issa earlier. He was talking about he thinks they still can salvage something with him. And I was like, he's one of the few that still have that opinion. So
they would have to attach a young player, like a good something. Like they're the ones having to give something up just to move him, right?
I mean, what assets they got? That's the only. And then you also have to factor in the contract length and the contract value. Like that. That's not easy to do. You got to get a third team involved, I guess, in that situation if you find a way, or else that one-on-one is just not going to work. But we were just talking about like ways that you can try to make it work. Deciphering between who's on and off ball with him and Bron. Now that AD's back, is there a way to utilize AD to open up Russ? Like in the half court, I just don't see it working that way. But when he's smart, when he's not turning the ball over like he just did right there at midcourt, like literally with someone right there. He's so good when he has like the feel. And that's such a generic way to describe it. But like you can just tell when Russ is going to have a good game and when Russ is going to have a bad game. Like I think it's that obvious. Like if he's playing at like 150%, like 150% speed, then you're probably going to see like 11 turnovers. But if he's under control, finding his teammates, taking the right shots, getting to the rim, throwing like lobs, then you're going to have a good Russ game. And I still think he has that in him. I'm with Matt on that. But the half court fit is I just think it's dreadful. And I think this roster is dreadful for the way they want to play. But they are hanging in there. And AD's got a double-double, 29 points, 10 boards, 2 blocks, just had a nice putback. Embiid's got to start getting out there. What is it about these floor-stretching bigs that Embiid has trouble with? Did you see that Mo Bamba game last week? He was like 7 of 8 from 3. And then Embiid just said, okay, screw you, and I'm going to score 50. Nice block.
Yeah, going back to the Russell Westbrook thing, like we've learned pretty well now. You could trade anybody, no matter what the contract is. But I just don't see any trades that make the Lakers better in the short term. And with LeBron on your roster, that's all you should be thinking about right now. And I just don't get from like the Lakers perspective, like, obviously there's problems with like ownership, the GM. It's not the most professional organization in the world. But what do you gain from like making Russell Westbrook feel like this, like the way you play him in the media, the benching and all that stuff? You need to like show this guy that you're all in on him, because that is your best bet, is if you can get Russell Westbrook to click. And we were talking about it earlier, so I'm not going to regurgitate it. But there's parts of his game where if they harness it correctly with AD back, like they could still be a pretty good team in the Western Conference.
What's the ideal minutes load? Like if you were a coach, what would the ideal minutes load be? Would you still start him? Would you because obviously there's defensive concerns too. Like he can fall asleep and sometimes he just can't keep up with some of these guards because they're so fast.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, in the regular season, the moment they traded for him, I'm like, oh, this is perfect. He's an innings eater. Because AD and LeBron both, you want to manage their load as much as you can. So I think
stagger them. Yep.
Yeah, that should still be the vision, though. I think that Russell Westbrook should still be ideally your innings eater, and it'll look like a better idea once, hopefully, like my dream comes to fruition, and he does start to ramp it up in February like he has the last couple of years. So in the regular season, his minutes will look pretty similar to what they are now, but in the playoffs, it's definitely a more interesting fit in how they're going to do it. I mean, if I had the answer, I wouldn't be on this live stream right now. I'd probably be like on the bench making calls, So I don't have a great answer to that one.
I got you. Here's a subject that I could drum up here, because I think it's actually quite a debate. We already hit on MVP earlier. May as well just go in the awards column here. Coach of the year, who's your favorite right now? Because I feel like there are like 3 or 4 right answers right now, which does not make it any easier on the voters.
I think it has to be Monty Williams because Thibodeau took that away from him last year. I think it's Monty's to lose this year, to be quite honest.
That's already an answer I didn't expect.
I'm partial to Taylor Jenkins, of course.
I don't see how. For me, I don't
It's
see
gotta be
how.
Spo
I
for
don't.
you, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't see how I don't go with Eric Spoelstra.
Spo, the way that
doing what he's
they
doing
just
with
put in Max Strus, Omer Yurtseven, Caleb Martin, all these guys just carrying to victory. I know that they had Kyle Lowry, but still, missing Adebayo for a month and a half, and yet they're still atop the East.
Their best 4 guys that barely played together.
And that's tough too, because you look at JB here in Cleveland, he absolutely deserves a look at it because nobody saw this coming. So that's going to be a really tough thing to kind of mold. It's going to be a tight race for Coach of the Year, I think.
Those are the 4 for me, though. It's in whatever order. I think Spo's first right now, but I think right now it's JB Bickerstaff is there, Taylor Jenkins is there, and then Monty Williams is there also in whatever order, 2 to 4. I just think Spo is number 1 right now, but ask me again in April. I might change my mind.
Is that right?
Ask me again next week. I might have a different answer for you. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's kind of what it is.
No, for sure. Anybody else got any different names that are not on that list? Because I'm sure there's still a couple people we're probably not thinking about.
I mean, this is not different, but I just want to kind of go back to the Spo thing. Like I was saying about big men passers, I feel like we're blessed with a lot of great coaches now. But I think Spo's he's at his Pop level now. He's at his Greg Popovich level. I'm clearly the best coach in the league. I think that highly of him at this point. The things he's doing, everybody looks like a starter level player when they play for him, whether that be Cody Martin or Max Strus or Gabe Vincent, Gabe, whatever. I can't get his name right.
Gabe Vincent.
Yeah. Gabe Vincent. There we go. But whoever it is, I don't honestly, I'm happy for all those guys and they're doing really well, but I don't think they'd be doing the things they're doing on a different team. Now they are with Miami. I think it has a lot to do with what Spo's doing. So for me, there's those names you guys named are all great coaches and they're in the top 5, top 7. But I think Spo's on an entirely different level as a coach right now. And he's peaking.
Well, that's the thing.
Shout out to our very own Nekias Duncan, by the way. He was on Kevin O'Connor's podcast and he was literally praising Spo about all of these things. But really good to see Nekias over on the Ringer podcast.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, right? With Max Strus, he was with the Bulls and he was with the Celtics. And neither of them were and he also hurt his knee, but neither of them were all right, let's give this time or whatever. They didn't figure it out. Really good college player, by the way. I'm in New York, so he's at DePaul. The Big East is out here every single year. You know what I mean? They'll play St. John's, et cetera, et cetera. I got to see Max Strus in college, and he was a damn good player in college. It's just he was at DePaul in the Big East, so a lot of people are not, paying that much attention to him, right? But he was a really good college player and had an offense built around him. So you can see where there's a pathway to being an NBA rotation player there, but somebody had to figure it out. The Miami Heat did. Omer Yurtseven, he was on an Exhibit 10 contract with the Oklahoma City Thunder and was in the G League on Oklahoma City's G League team after playing in North Carolina State and then Georgetown after being one of the best prospects in the country. People,
my guy, man.
Other teams keep saying, how do the Heat keep finding these guys? And I'm these are good players that y'all just didn't really figure out how to use. Gabe Vincent is one. Gabe Vincent is the one that's puzzling for me because, I think he played at UC Santa Barbara. And he was good in college.
He was on the Nigerian national team over at the Olympics.
Yeah. Where he went under Gabe Namdi. His full name being Gabe Namdi Vincent. But it was people watching him the last couple of years, me being one of those people, I didn't think he was going to be a guy you can plug in as a starter, plug in for 18, 20 minutes, be a lockdown perimeter defender some nights, right? Be somebody who is going to hit the 3 consistently. He's really developed, his improvement has been very shocking. And then Caleb Martin, there wasn't, and James Borrego's a very good coach. but they couldn't quite figure out in Charlotte, and they had a lot of players playing the same position, including his twin Cody. And now it's like, all right, Miami, there was an opportunity for him. He's on a 2-way deal, which that's going to be an interesting offseason to figure out what happens there. And then with him, he takes another step. But then also for me with Spoelstra, it's like the veterans too, right? PJ Tucker probably being the main one of this. He's having kind of his best season in a while. He said yesterday, he was talking about how, they actually let you shoot 2-pointers here, which is not something he apparently got to do in Houston. As we remember, it was like, yo, go stand. Like I was saying with RJ Barrett earlier, they're telling him, yo, go stand in the corner. And now after the last month, we're starting to see RJ Barrett sort of, lead the offense a little bit more. PJ Tucker is being utilized as a passer. He's in the dunker spot. He has a nice floater game, like inside of like 12 feet. He's doing a lot of different things. He's guarding sometimes the other team's best wing or big or whatever, like playing a lot of minutes. Like the stuff that Spo's doing, it's been masterful so far. And I don't think a lot of other coaches will be able to replicate the season that he's had so far.
And it's the longevity too that Spo always has his teams competing. Like even those like times like where some guys would be out with injury or like he wouldn't have the amount of talent that you need to get into that playoff conversation. Like there was a year that I would have voted him in for coach of the year when he didn't make the playoffs. They were like a game or something out. I think it was like 2017 or 2016 or something.
The 11-30 and then 30-11.
Yes. Yes,
yeah.
That's exactly
the Dion Waiters team. Yeah.
Yes, that's precisely it. I think who else was on that squad?
Kelly Olynyk,
James
Johnson. I want to say that was 16-17. That was Whiteside. And then they ended up extending all those guys, and then they maneuvered out of it. That's the thing. One of my knocks with them is like they'll do these extensions sometimes where it's like, are you sure you want to do that? But they always get out of it. So Duncan Robinson, if he doesn't get it together, which he's starting to now because Bam is back, then you might see him in a different situation.
Hey, that's the DHO. That's the DHO guy, man. Like you have to have the DHO guy to succeed. That's the only thing though about Duncan, man. He's always coming off of those things, left or right, but square in the shoulders. But that's probably why he hasn't been shooting so well this year is because Bam hasn't been there to go, here you go.
Yeah, that's really it. For whatever reason, they just had like you see Bam. Like I think he looks for Duncan too much, but he looks for him, and often he finds him. But
and then when the teams try to go over to Duncan and contest that, then Bam's just gonna put it right on the floor, and he's gotten so good at that, man.
Speaking of passing bigs. I don't even know if he was mentioned earlier.
No, I forgot to. I was thinking about it to myself. I'm like, how could I forget Bam? I'm just gonna leave it be because I'm working on I read online somewhere that it's like inappropriate in conversations to like bring back past conversations that are past the point and to just like leave it be. So I didn't say anything. But I'm so thankful you said it because it was killing me.
No need to be more. Yeah, I was saying no need to be so formal there, Matt. We're here to have some fun, bro. It's all good.
but yeah, like Bam, like he had 11 assists yesterday. A lot of them were to Duncan Robinson, who had a 25 or something like that, 7 threes. But yeah, like I mean, he just does so many other things. Like a lot of people, being sort of connected with a lot of Heat fans now. They complain about his aggression all the time, and then as soon as he got hurt, it's like, we're kind of missing all the other things because he's like one of the best switch defenders in the league, and he's a great passing big, and he brings the ball up the court at 6'10" and does all these different things, and it's like, the offense does need to get to a certain point. You want it there specifically for the playoffs if you want to compete, but he does practically everything else. So, I mean, I don't think there's a lot of room to complain there.
He does. I look down and I look back up and it's an 18-point game. Whoever's been watching like really, really closely, can someone explain? I've seen Embiid using his strength and, Tobias getting a couple of, baseline opportunities. But what's gone awry here for the Lakers on the offensive end, if anyone can provide any input? Nobody? Okay. All right.
To be fair,
the
that's
Lakers roster is terrible. That's what it is.
I was gonna say, like, that's sort of a summary of their season. Like they've been a
Well,
they've
they
been a
were within
bummer to
two.
watch.
Like they were literally within two, like with 9 minutes to go in the third quarter, and I looked up and it was a 20-point game. I'm like, what the hell happened?
88-66.
Yeah, what the hell happened? I feel like that's significant. Oh, they're getting outscored 34-18.
Yeah.
There you have it. Still
Westbrook
dreadful
has
from beyond
11.
the arc. They've only made 3 threes. That'll do it. And
Westbrook has 11. I think he had the first 3, actually. I think they got up to 0-6 start. He hit a 3. I thought Carmelo Anthony would have a good game, but he's not with LeBron out. So
good rejection by Maxey. Oh yeah, this is going to be an avalanche here. Always hate seeing. I love watching it, but I hate when Embiid does the Euro or he does the sidestep.
Yeah.
Just knowing his injury history.
Yeah.
But no, this became a blowout quickly. So maybe we will get to talk about Isaiah Joe. Brian, what do you say? Spoke too soon. All right. Let's see. We've got Dre in the game. Howard. They're going to need Austin Reeves to get back in the game.
Let me take a glance at the Sixers bench. See who we might see in the fourth quarter at this point.
More Charlie Brown. Oh,
We could see Charlie Brown.
Yeah.
Charlie Brown from he played at Temple? No, St. Joseph's. Yeah. He was I think he was leading was leading scorer in the Atlantic 10 a couple of
He's
years
been
ago.
around the block a bit. I think he played for the Thunder last year.
I saw him at Barclays Center before. I was like, his name is really Charlie Brown? Like, why would his parents do that?
It's amazing. Outstanding. Hey, Isaiah Joe's in the game, Brian. Here we go. Selfishly, I want to see Charles Bassey get some time, but I know they're going to play Dre.
Miles Powell's not on the team anymore? Or is he in the G League, or what's up with him?
It's a good question. Not sure, but I
No,
know he was
he's on the
well
two-way.
liked as the Seton Hall.
He's on it. Yeah, I would like to see Miles Powell. I was there when Seton Hall beat
more Big East stuff, huh?
he beat a Kentucky team with PJ Washington, with whoever else they had on that what was it 18-19 squad. I want to say that was Miles Powell's senior year. So I came away from that thinking that Miles Powell would be like, oh, he can get an NBA rotation spot, and then I don't know what's been going on with him since. He had a brief stint with the Westchester Knicks, but yeah.
Those bucket getters, man. All right, guys. End of the third, 88-68 is your score. AD with 29 and 10, 13 and 19 from the field. So it ain't by his fault. And from what I've watched, he's been doing pretty dang good on the defensive end. They just haven't gotten much else out of anybody. Westbrook's got 11, 4, and 3 with 5 turnovers. But Talen Horton-Tucker, 7 points. And Melo's got 6. Monk's 2 of 11 from the field. That probably has a lot to do with it too. Joel Embiid, 20 points, 9 boards, 7 assists. Not his best day from the field, but again, getting to the free throw line. Tyrese Maxey looks like he's having a solid night. And just that's based off eye test and looking at the box score. 14 points, 8 assists, and 4 boards. Tobias with a cool 17. So that's pretty much big 11 points from George Niang off the bench too. With 11. So that's pretty much the difference of the game right there is the 3-point shooting. Philly, I mean, they don't jack them up by any means because they obviously go to Embiid, but they've made 12 and the Lakers have made 3. So that's pretty big. But want to remind you guys, basketballnews.com watch party of Lakers-76ers is powered by Prize Picks, the easiest way to play daily fantasy. Here's how it works. You pick 2 to 5 players and an over-under on a potential projections, and you can win up to 10 times on any entry. It's just you versus the projected numbers. They've got a ton of stats to choose from. That's points, rebounds, assists. You can also do all 3. I do that all the time. Fantasy points and more. On top of that, they allow mixed sports entries. So, for example, on Championship Sunday, when the NFL is going on, you can also pick a player prop for the NBA at the same time. LeBron and Pat Mahomes. What do you say? So they offer every sport you can think of, though. It's the NBA, the NFL, college basketball, MLB, soccer, college football, MMA, you name it. So all of our viewers who deposit and use the promo code NEWS will receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100. So be sure to use that promo code NEWS on prizepicks.com. And once again, thank you, PrizePicks. Gentlemen, we've made it. We are at the fourth quarter, and it's ugly. It's starting to get ugly. So start thinking about some things you want to talk about elsewhere, because the game seems to be getting away fast.
I was just thinking, I want to talk about it with you guys. Did anyone else take advantage of Buffalo Wild Wings buy one, get one tonight?
Wait, there's a B-dubs get one, buy one, get one.
I mean, it's
Yeah,
Thursday.
boneless wings, buy one, get one on Thursdays.
I have one like 10 minutes away from me. That'd have been easy too, because I was like, oh, damn, I got to make dinner before I do this show because I'm going to be starving after it. But no, I did not take advantage. I hope
I live in Memphis
I hope
where we have
everybody did.
I live in Memphis where we have a ton of really good wing places. So Buffalo Wild Wings is not somewhere that I frequent.
Oh, okay.
There.
That's
speaking of wings,
that's how I am with pizza, by the way. You don't get
There's
chain pizza
something-
in New York.
There's something we can talk about. Did you notice? Okay, so the big thing after the loss to the Cavs last night was that Giannis was chomping on some wings.
Yeah.
And he was really getting into them. And this caused a huge discussion on Twitter today about the wings and players talking about how good they are in Cleveland. And I'm like, oh, this is awesome, because it's one of my favorite places where he was eating them from, Quaker Steak and Lube. But when I was covering a Washington Wizards game earlier in the season, a game the Wizards won, it was Bradley Beal and Montrezl Harrell, and they also had the same wings. They had the Quaker Steak and Lube wings. So apparently we're a good place for wings for visiting NBA teams and anybody that wants to come into the city as well. So, yeah, definitely. I would have to advise getting the flavor called Arizona Ranch and the flavor called Louisiana Liquors. They're very good. So that's my input on that. But there was a wing discussion, and I had to hit it because I was like, everybody was freaking out over Giannis eating the wings instead of, the Bucks getting demolished in Cleveland. It was like, what's going on?
So Giannis ate wings at a press conference after a Grizzlies game when he was in Memphis from a place called Wing Guru.
Okay.
And it was he had the lemon pepper wings there. But Wing Guru caters for every single road NBA team when they come to Memphis. And they do honey gold is one of their main flavors. And there's actually a Triple J sauce for Jaren Jackson Jr. at Wing Guru as well.
Oh, is that right? That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. Tell me he's in some corny commercials down there.
He is not in corny commercials yet. I'm sure he's well on his way, him and Ja both.
He's the type of personality to do that. I remember the first time I actually interacted with Jaren was at Summer League, his rookie year. And he's towering, obviously. He's a 7-foot dude. And I got the recorder like this. And he's literally just resting his elbow on my shoulder while I'm doing this. And I'm like, how you doing? He's just a goofball, man. It's really good to see how he's played this year too. I mean, definitely somebody you have to consider on an all defense team, and not just that chucker from deep anymore. He's putting it on the floor, using the left hand a lot. Like he's really taking advantage of his size, and that's something we haven't seen from him really in the past. So if you could expand further actually upon JJJ's game, I think that'd be a cool discussion.
Yeah. He's. I think you're trying to model him a little bit after Giannis with his ability to be that size and get downhill. He's not as strong or as built as Giannis is yet. He's still got a little bit more to go on his handle. And sometimes he is too predictable going to the left side. But you're right. It's really one of those lineups when there's Steven Adams in the game where he kind of sits in the corner and just chucks up threes. But when he's the primary five, they get him in the action around the rim, and he's been finishing at a pretty high rate here lately. And then, of course, his defense, he's getting like 5 blocks a game, almost every game right now, and he's been the anchor of the Grizzlies defense. He is a steal of a contract, them getting him on 4 years, $100 million, if he continues to grow at this rate. Just a perfect guy to put beside Ja. My first interaction with him, he was his rookie year, and I was on the sideline, and my wife was there. We were just kind of hanging around, for a pregame shoot around, and I said, hey, man, you take a picture with me and my wife. And he goes, hold on. And he ran over to Mike Conley, and he was just like, hey, man, am I allowed to do this? Can I take a picture? And he ran back over there. He's like, "Hey, Matt, I'm a rookie. I don't really know all the rules yet, so I just had to make sure I can do this." And just was real great about it.
I love it.
Yeah.
No, he's a
Yeah.
goof, man. He's definitely a goof.
Yeah, Justin, so I go to Michigan State, and my freshman year at college, I ran into him at a Penn State football game. It was Penn State, Michigan State, and you know me, fanboy, and I'm like, "Hey, man, can you take a picture of me?" And he just looks at me, and he's like, "Yeah." He's like, the thing is, he's like my age, and I'm asking him to take a picture of me. It's just funny, and a story about Xavier Tillman. One of my buddies, he actually had a class with Xavier Tillman, and Xavier Tillman, athletes are notorious for taking like easier majors and not skipping class and all that. Xavier Tillman would show up to every single one of his classes, and he was like an active participant in all his classes. Some cool tidbits. Michigan State athletes, they're about education.
I didn't imagine that you went to Sparty. I mean, look at your background. You wouldn't know it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Sparty. You got Patrick Swayze right there.
Very
All
cool.
the
Very
essentials.
cool. So it's funny. So I'm an Ohio State football fan, but my loyalties lie to the Akron Zips in basketball. Shout out to the Zips. Shout out Coach Gross. I just love like college hoops when it's just so pure. I want to see my Zips get to the tournament this year so bad because they got screwed a couple of years ago with the the COVID stuff, and then last year they lost my guy Lauren Christian Jackson, who was actually at the Tampa Bay Pro Combine. BasketballNews.com partner as well, but no, I love college hoops, man, and I'm interested to see what kind of prospects come out of East Lansing this year. I know that Matt Babcock's tabbed Max Christie as somebody to look out for.
Yeah, I haven't had enough time. I really don't have. Now that I'm covering the NBA, it's hard for me to get enough time to watch college basketball.
Oh yeah, no, I'm sure, but I bet that's probably a madhouse over there, man. I'm jealous, just like knowing all these college basketball crowds and stuff like that. Because I mean, I didn't go to a major school, so
yeah. I ran into Max actually at the bar last weekend.
Did you really?
Yeah. And my buddies, they made fun of me because I was a little intoxicated, and I was one of the other players, the backup point guard, whose name I'm blanking on right now. I kept talking to him like, "Hey, man, I should do a feature for you on this website I write for." And my buddies were just like, "You were saying, like, you just kept talking to him." And I was just like, "Leave him alone, man. He doesn't want to talk to you. He doesn't believe that you cover basketball." It was funny. But
Can
no,
we
it's
switch
cool.
spots? I miss college.
Yeah, no, I mean, I miss it too. I feel like I miss it because I could already tell it's like fleeting. But
Oh yeah.
I'm still living it.
Oh yeah, for sure. Oh man, anybody else? Any of you guys that an individual player who's caught your eye over the last couple of weeks? I feel like we have on my podcast. I think I shouted out Terry Rozier the other day. I think that he's not getting enough love. I know he didn't have the greatest game a couple of days ago, but the Hornets put up 158 on the Pacers on Wednesday. I know Evan feels some type of way about that being from Indiana and all, but
Yeah.
I feel like Terry deserves a little more love. Any like under the radar guys that you think deserve some respect? I know Nikias just wrote about Amir Coffey too. That's another guy.
This guy's definitely not under the radar, but I mean, I watched the whole game last night. Obviously, I watch all their games, but Devin Booker has been on an absolute tear, especially since
2 straight against Utah. What the hell?
He's averaging over 35 per game since the incident with the Raptors mascot, by the way. They're 7-0. They're 7-0 since then, and he's gone off every single game. But man, I just want to hit on the Suns just for a few minutes because I wrote a story today on BasketballNews.com about they're in a position where they're 39-9, and they still have flexibility to go out and add to their already strong rotation. Where you could hypothetically make a move for Eric Gordon via trade and still go out and get guy Thaddeus Young in the buyout market. They could be a legitimately super scary team, even more scary than they are now in the next like 4 to 6 weeks. I mean, it's hard to envision that the Suns are already better than they were last year, but I mean, they're already on another level or two better than they were last year. It's incredible what they're doing, and it's hard for me to see them getting knocked off the top spot because they're already creating separation atop the West.
Oh yeah, this is when you go for the jugular. I mean, you're already 30 games above 500, man. Like you don't like. It's not even that you have to add like this over the top crazy addition because you already have so much talent. But if you just get deeper and you have that kind of fallback, they're hungry, man. Like I'm watching them; they're just so good down the stretch. Like it's just a different feel when they're within striking distance or if they're ahead. They just know how to execute when it matters the most. That's what I've noticed the most about watching the Suns this year.
Yeah, they're on pace for the best team ever in clutch minutes. I think their net rating right now is like plus 47 per 100 possessions for clutch minutes. It's by far shattering any records for clutch teams so far this year. It just goes to show like the way they're clicking on all cylinders. Like the Chris Paul, Devin Booker backcourt, I thought was going to be good, but I mean the way it's been, I mean it's absolutely incredible what they're doing, and then the depth on top of that. This team goes 9, 10, 11 deep if they add another 1 or 2 guys via the buyout market or trade. I mean, this team literally can really offer anything in the West. And honestly, if you want to stack the West for a few minutes, I think it's probably Phoenix. And then from there, I think Memphis, you can throw Memphis in there as well. And maybe Utah's a little behind them as well. But this Western Conference is going to be a lot of fun to watch. And quite honestly, I think the Suns are on top of that. But you can make an argument for a lot of those teams in the top 4.
Now, Evan, can I ask you, because we were just talking about all-league defenders, what do you think Mikal Bridges, what do you think about his case as an all-league defender?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think he's a first-team all-defense. He's definitely burned off a little bit since then, but I put out a tweet a couple months ago when he shut down Steph Curry when he came to Phoenix. I'm like, that was a legitimately like a defensive player of the year type of performance he put up against Stephen Curry. He's not going to win defensive player of the year, but I think for sure he's one of the best wing defenders in the NBA right now. He can cover 1 through 3. He could spot some 4 as well. I mean, his wingspan is incredible. I mean, the way he's improved overall from Villanova, even as a defender, it's just incredible to watch.
Yeah, no, I was watching them. I was watching them play the Clippers, an old game from earlier this month, and it dawned on me how surprisingly strong he is as like a reactive. He's good at like absorbing strength really well. He was banging with Marcus Morris down there a couple times. And I was just like, he's definitely really cool, but I think he just doesn't pop as much as like Thibault, just because he doesn't like create as much havoc and stuff. And I guess that's something that catches the eye and anchors a lot of your thinking because defense goes unnoticed.
No, for sure. Yeah. I definitely think as far as like team defense goes, like him being in the passing lanes with his wingspan and him being able to like in certain situations lock down guys, like even point guards. He's really good at locking down the point guards and guys with high usage in that situation. So he's definitely up there for me. I don't know about you guys, but he's definitely up there like top 3, top 5 wing defenders in the league right now.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's like him, Thibault. I think DeJounte Murray needs a lot more love. I've been really
love.
Yeah, he's been awesome, and like he gambles, but like I feel like there needs to be a stat for like gambling on passes, like gambling for steals and like percentage of success rate. But I feel like his is like really high. Like when he's gambling, like it's because he knows there's something there, and he's gotten a lot better with that. And then when he wants to, he can lock up. I remember they were playing the Cavs a couple weeks ago, and him and Garland were dueling, and he was all over Garland, and Garland was getting his because he's a great player, but he was soaring him. He's so long, he suffocates people. Oh, yeah. I think he's a guy. Caruso, if the unfortunate injury, he was. You very seldomly see point guards and shooting guards like anchor a defense, but him and Lonzo Ball were legitimately anchoring that Chicago Bull defense. So I think they deserve some props.
I mean, on San Antonio, real quick, I feel like they're the team to me where they could be, if they get lottery luck and get like a top 2, top 3 pick, they could be like next year's Cleveland or next year's Memphis to me, where like you have DeJounte Murray, you have a legitimate building block. If you get another young star in there, I mean, me and Spencer, I had Spencer on my first ever podcast for Nothing But Bets, and we were talking about like preseason prognostications for teams, and I was super low on San Antonio, but they're a super fun team to watch, quite honestly. Like they're scrappy. They get everything going. I mean, DeJounte Murray is one of my favorite players to watch. You had a great story on that as well, Matt, on basketballnews.com. Yeah, they do awesome stuff down there, and I mean, it's never count out Greg Popovich, and that's what Spencer told me, and I was wrong about that. But man, he never is not in a position to at least make a run.
Did I say to take the over on that or something? Yes. I want to go back and listen to what I was saying.
No, I was like, I said San Antonio is probably going to be one of the worst teams in the NBA this year. You're like, no, never doubt Greg Popovich, and I'm taking the over. So,
yes, I got to go back and listen to that. I love it.
One thing that's sneaky about that team, if they make it into the playoffs somehow, the one thing that matters a lot in the postseason is how good of a mid-range shooting team you are, because everybody's trying to stop the three and shots to the rim, and they are an awesome mid-range shooting team. I feel like all their guys, they can get shots from that 3 to 10-foot area, and I feel like that will be like they're going to be a pain in the ass for whoever they play if they make it into the playoffs.
Yeah,
You got
Speaking-
Jakob too, protecting the rim. You've got.
Mhm.
I feel like we're seeing Devin Vassell come into his own right now too. Derek White also somebody that can get to the rim. They've got pieces. Keldon Johnson, somebody who catches the ball and drives every time. Like, he's got some really solid potential. It's putting together consistently for Keldon. And we got to remember how young these guys are too. Like, they're fun. They're really fun. I think they could sneak in there. But I also think that, I'm seeing the Timberwolves doing what they're doing too. And I'm very, very excited to just watch how they're playing. They're actually on tonight, taking on the Warriors on national TV. And what better time, because I wouldn't say they're hitting their stride, but Anthony Edwards coming off a 40-point game, Cat's playing well. They've got some pieces there, and Chris Finch has them rolling a little here.
Yeah, those are two teams to me, Minnesota and San Antonio. I know Nikias and I collaborate on that John Collins piece, but those are some teams that I would look at. Like, if either one of those teams can get like a John Collins or a Jeremy Grant in there, I think those teams could make actually some serious noise as far as like being a play-in team, because they feel like there's like one little piece away from really taking that little jump.
And my bad too. I didn't mean to disrespect D'Angelo Russell. He is a Buckeye. So sorry about that, D'Angelo. But D'Angelo's been playing very well here lately too. And that should be a good one. There's a couple of revenge game angles on there, man. You got Wiggins taking on his old team. You got D'Angelo taking on the team that traded him for Wiggins. There's some storylines there. But no, I watching Minnesota, they're a little better defensively. They're not like all the way there. Like, they started the season like just as world beaters on the defensive end, and everyone thought that was going to be the case. And then they kind of regressed to the mean a little bit, but they're just high paced, high action. I really like Jaden McDaniels. He's a guy that I think has a really solid future in this league. I don't see enough Naz Reid, but it's also because, Cat's healthy. They play Jaden McDaniels. Jared Vanderbilt is doing a lot for them too. But they just seem I feel like the word to describe them is they're spunky. And I think they have kind of taken on after Pat Beverly a little bit. And that also goes to show what the meaning of a veteran to bring in somebody that's going to completely change your attitude.
This is kind of revisionist history a little bit, but just thinking more about it now, I mean, I think we're at least 2 years past that. But what's everyone's thoughts looking back on it a little bit on the Wiggins D'Lo swap? I mean, that feels like a win-win now, so to say. I mean, Warriors get Kuminga out of it too, but both those guys are really fitting in well in their spots. And 2 years later, I think both teams probably do the same thing.
No, I think that's one of the rare trades in NBA history where both teams won and both players are in much better situations because of it. I mean, Wiggins is he's in such a great situation that he's now an all-star starter. So
he is an all-star starter.
He's one of the 10 best players in the world, apparently. But D'Angelo Russell, Thinking Basketball came out with a great video on him and his defense and how he's quarterbacking them on the defensive end. And you're really getting to see his IQ. And, of course, he's always been a really good passer. But I think, him being with Cat, him and Cat were boys growing up, played AAU together or whatever. But I think that's just a really good environment for him. And both teams are they're playing well for where they're supposed to be, if that makes sense. Like, the Timberwolves are obviously not championship contenders like Golden State, but this is basically like having a championship contending team for Minnesota fans. No offense, Minnesota fans. It's been pretty bad there. But then, of course, the Warriors now are if Draymond can come back, a legitimate championship threat, even a threat to your very good Suns team, Evan.
No, I mean, I think they're the one team to look out for. I mean, Memphis too, for sure. I mean, if Ja gets on a roll here, Jaren, I want to bounce back to Memphis for a second and talk to you a little bit, Justin, because that rebuild they've done, I mean, it's pretty incredible what they've done down there because obviously you've been hitting all these draft picks. You get a guy like Jaren, you get Ja as well in there. You go out and make really smart trades for guys with high upside too. Like the way that Memphis has done that, I think is very similar to what Phoenix has done. But I mean, even betting even more on your young core, so to say, because they haven't gotten like a Chris Paul in there, but they have the assets like we talked about before, where they can go out this offseason and make a big trade like that.
Yeah, they certainly have nailed. They have a type in the draft, and it seems to be those guys that have been there for 3 or 4 years in college. They're not really interested in the upside swings. They want kind of the proven thing. We know what we see, like with Brandon Clark and with Desmond Bane, who was an absolute steal. And the fact that it was the Celtics that traded him to us with that pick makes it even sweeter for us after they held our pick hostage for so many years. They know what they're looking for. They go get it. They put it into the system that Jenkins runs, which is the same system that Budenholzer runs up in Milwaukee. And the rebuild, like we are fortunate as a fan base that our rebuild lasted 2 years, maybe from the grit and grind era. Seriously, when we were doing our homework on the draft, the year that we drafted Morant, we had the 8th best odds in that draft. And so we were looking at guys like freaking Jarrett Culver, who's a Grizzly now anyways, as the guy that we were going to draft. And we just lucked into Ja Morant, and has completely lifted this franchise into a realm that they've never been before. And he's about to take us in places that we may never see again after his time here is done.
It's a very good point, too, about luck. You know, there's a lot of fans that get mad about the rebuilds. Dude, it takes luck. Like, the Cavs didn't land a top 3 pick until this year, or this past year. Before that, they picked 8th, 5th, and 5th, despite their records being like the 2nd worst in the league for 3 straight years. Like, it takes so much luck. Now, you know, they got Garland with that 5th pick, but lottery luck is so, so important. Like, it's so important in the rebuilding process. And that's probably another issue that people are going to, you know, talk about. The whole tanking argument and all that, but I hate that conversation just like as much as I hate the MVP conversation. But that is it's so paramount. Luck and talent evaluation. That is the name of the game right there. And organic growth. Like, the guys have to take lumps. It's just how it is. It's what sports is, man. Like, can't change stuff overnight. And that's a problem I have personally with fans a lot too. Is like, especially nowadays, like the immediacy factor. And I've actually talked to like front office executives about this, about the immediacy, the necessary, like, if it's not happening now, it's not going to happen ever. And I just think that's such a terrible mentality to have. You have to see signs of progress, but there are also things along the way that can happen. Like, I know that I'm going to Cleveland here, but like, they had not been able to stay healthy and still have not been able to stay healthy, obviously, since, I don't know, like the last 4 seasons. They've always had somebody important go down. Now they've had 2 players go down, but at the same time, they have players who are still young, but have years of experience now and know how to handle these situations. Like, when that hits you at first and you are like thrown into the fire, that sucks. That really sucks. So that also affects the way that, you know, you perform and stuff. But I also always thought that was an interesting conversation of the right way to rebuild. You know, like, is there a real right way to rebuild? Can you do a soft rebuild? The Jazz did it. Like, that's one thing. Like, the Jazz did it when Gordon Hayward went away. They were bad for like a year or something, and then got Donovan Mitchell, and then boom, they're right back into the conversation. Like, you know, do you guys have any thoughts on that at all?
I mean, a team like Indiana, I feel like, is really in trouble just because they have they haven't had a single-digit draft pick in like 30 plus years, which is
at least
crazy.
they have assets. Like, yeah, if they have to pull the plug, they have assets.
Yeah, that's the thing is, I mean, they're currently, I think, 5th in the reverse standings, which is hopefully for their sake, they get like lottery luck and they jump into the top 3 because that team's in desperate need of a star. But outside of that, just you put all your assets into like LeVert, Brogdon, Sabonis, Turner. It just hasn't worked out the last 3 or 4 years. And that's a team to me where I feel like that they really could be a huge seller at the deadline. Same for Portland, same for Sacramento. Those are the 3 teams that I'm kind of watching out for the next couple of weeks, because I think those are the teams that are kind of realizing, okay, this isn't working. We just need to blow it all up.
Sure. You know what I think of a buyer too, by the way, and we really haven't really talked about him in the Western Conference, like that next tier, but like Dallas is kind of finding its rhythm a little bit here as of late. I think they lost their last game, but they seem to be finding a little bit of something now that, you know, Luka's starting to look a little healthier, maybe a little bit more conditioned. You know, KP's in there. And I mean, one of my personal favorite players in the entire league is Dorian Finney-Smith, and he's just absolutely awesome as a defender. And as somebody who stepped up when you know, Luka was out and some of these guys were out on the offensive end. So they have them. They obviously just lost Tim Hardaway Jr. to that foot injury, but do you see them as being a possible buyer in this market? Can they get to that next tier to where they're with the Suns, the Warriors, the Jazz, and whatnot?
They absolutely should be, because they kind of like what we were talking about earlier with Embiid, right? If you have Luka Doncic, granted, it's a little bit of a different situation. You have a max contract that he's about to start. But if you have Luka Doncic, why not, right? One, you have to figure out if the Luka and KP thing is actually going to work like full time, right? Or for a long time. And this year, we haven't heard a lot of complaints about that. Quiet as kept, Jason Kidd's actually been doing a pretty good job in Dallas so far this year. And then with Luka Doncic, it's like, all right, clearly he needs some sort of help. We've heard rumors about like, all right, we don't know if they want to re-sign Jalen Brunson, for example. I think that you should probably keep him and try to see what you can do. Unfortunately, Tim Hardaway Jr. is hurt now, but you should try to see, like, you know, I'm not going to spoil what I have coming to basketballnews.com tomorrow, but there's some sort of, you know, there's a trade partner out there that I think will make a lot of sense for them in the West Coast. But I think Dallas is a team, like, they're absolutely, like, if I'm them organizationally, right? I'm looking at Golden State, I'm looking at Utah, I'm looking at Phoenix, and I'm like, we can make a move and sort of get into that bracket and compete with them, right? Because even though they were one and done in each of the last 2 playoffs, you have to look at how close they came from actually winning each series. Against the Clippers in the bubble, if Kristaps Porzingis doesn't get hurt and doesn't get the BS ejection in whatever game that was beforehand, they might win that series. And then last year, if not for Kawhi Leonard just being, you know, a superhuman in games 6 and 7,
God,
those last 5 quarters of the series, they might win that series also. So if I'm Dallas, it's like, all right, we have to at least win a series, but also like we've come very close the last couple of years. So let's try to do something. I don't know if it's Jeremy Grant. I have an idea of what it could be, but more on that tomorrow. And then we'll see, like, you know, whether or not they could actually compete. They should look at that upper class and be like, look, we should get there. Kind of like I'm putting Dallas and Philly in the same sort of knocking on the door. We'll see what they do between now and the trade deadline bubble.
And real quick, before we'll get right back into the discussion, because I actually have some thoughts on that. But we have gone final in Philly. It was 105-87. The Lakers cut it down to about 12, but then, you know, it didn't go the purple and gold's way. Embiid finishes the game with 26, 9 rebounds, and 7 assists. Ended up going decent from the field there in the fourth. Tobias Harris, 23, 5, and 4. Tyrese Maxey flirted with a triple-double, 14 points, 10 assists, and 7 boards. Leading the Lakers was Anthony Davis, 31 and 12, and a strong effort, 14 and 21 from the field. Russell Westbrook ended up with 20 with 4 rebounds and 3 assists. Malik Monk went 3 of 13 from the field, but had 11 points, 5 assists, and 4 boards. Lakers just dreadful from deep, 6 of 29. Otherwise, they did not get to the free throw line. Good defense by Philly. They didn't even shoot 10 free throws, the Lakers. So that's just a testament to their defense there. And the Sixers out rebounded them 54-19. Lakers, not really many dimes, got out assisted 30-19. So that's pretty much a telltale sign of the way the game went, I would say. Equal on fast break points as well. But let's not forget, guys, basketballnews.com watch party, sponsored by Ticket Smarter, which helps customers from all walks of life Experience the excitement of live events. Buying with TicketSmarter is quick and easy, and the tickets are 100% guaranteed. Find tickets to more than 125,000 concerts, sports, and theater events. If you want tickets to the hottest live events, be sure to check out TicketSmarter. And back to that Dallas thought. I'm interested because Jalen Brunson is so important to that team because he takes off a load of Luka that they haven't been able to take off of him, especially, being the ball handler that he is and the guy. He plays with such good pace. I know that's such a, easy to use term, but he does. He really has this nice little stop and go, reading his defender. Am I going to pull up? Am I going to try to blow past him and get to the rim or kick out? I always feel like, lefties can do that a little better than righties. I don't know why, but just a thought of mine. But I think he's so important to that team. But like you said, are you going to pay him the money that he's going to command next year? Especially because it's a dry free agent class and only like 3 to 4 teams have space to pay him. He's probably going to command quite a bit of money. Are you going to pony that up? If you trade him, you have to get a ball handler back. There's no question, I think, in my mind. So what do you do there? What's the the choice of action here?
Or do you want to do like a double-sided trade and just swap? Because I think the Knicks should be trying to get Jalen Brunson. And I don't know if they're going to re-sign Mitchell Robinson. And I feel like you need an actual center or a better center than Dwight Powell, no offense, next to
not the revolving door.
Yeah. Because it's Kleber, it's Powell, it's Boban minutes and Marquise Chris now, and we've seen I'm missing
Willie Cauley-Stein.
Where's Moses Brown? Where is he?
He should be playing.
Right. You traded for him, and I thought it was a smart move. And did they trade for him or just sign him? No, they did.
He went bonkers, dude. He went bonkers with the Thunder for that small stretch last year. He got traded to Boston over the summer, and then he got rerouted over to Dallas.
I would love to see I don't know how good Mitchell Robinson is going to be. I remember being in New York, there was the Mitchell Robinson versus Jared Allen argument going back and forth. And you could see that Mitchell Robinson had more raw talent, but you could see that Jared Allen was always more disciplined. So that was an interesting thing a while back. And I think Mitchell Robinson, speaking of guys who've been playing better lately, will ignore the Heat effort, but he's been playing well lately, right?
How's he doing with the fouls, by the way? I haven't been watching him.
His fouls have gone down. I will say that.
Good.
His fouls have gone down. The IQ's definitely gone up, but he's not consistently that game changer at center that you probably envision at some point. But going back to the Ace thing that we talked about earlier, he's still very young. A lot of these dudes that we're talking about, they're still very young, and they just don't.
22?
The NBA 23, 24. The NBA just doesn't offer him a lot of time to figure it out. He didn't even play in college. You know what I mean? He took the year off because he was going to go to Western Kentucky and then just didn't play. And decided to just prep for the draft and became a second-round pick. But yeah, someone like that, I wonder, because I think the Knicks should be looking at Jalen Brunson. I've said, look, I would, if I'm the Spurs, I'm not trading DeJounte Murray. But there are a number of teams, the Knicks, the Celtics, Dallas, who I would be what do I need to do to get this guy off your team?
What do I have to do?
What is it that I would need to do to get him from San Antonio? If I'm Dallas, it's we're in the same state. You know what I mean? What do you want? What do you want?
DeJounte, they should be holding a ransom right now.
Seriously.
Because he's just about to enter his prime. I think he's 26. He's just about to get there. He's not even in his prime yet. And he is starting to, when he's he's proven he's been able to stay healthy. So, knock on wood on that one.
Yeah.
And two, just the way that, he was describing it earlier, Matt was, just the way that he's playing defense and, offensively, he's long and he's able to crash the boards. He's able to play make. He's able to do all these other different things. And it's really, really a solid sight to see him come into his own. I feel like it's kind of, taken Derek White a little out of the conversation a little bit because of, his usage is a little higher. And, it's probably, more or less Derek White is pretty much the same position. I would say I wouldn't consider him a shooting guard really. So that's been kind of tough on him, but just individually for DeJounte is just, he's been a joy to watch this year. And like, we talk about the Jaws, the Darius Garlands, like I feel like DeJounte definitely deserves a lot of love at the moment.
He's a wild card all-star for me this year, I think now. With like Paul George is out and Andrew Wiggins is a starter, which we've talked about already.
And that's the perfect way. That's the perfect way though to wrap it up, isn't it? Like Andrew Wiggins, all-star starter. That's the way. That's the note we're going to end on. And you know what? Congratulations to Maple Jordan, man. You did it here in the top 10 of the NBA's hierarchy. Good for you, man. Very happy for you. But we've rambled on, I think, long enough. And people are going to want to watch that 10 o'clock game, which is going to be the Minnesota Timberwolves at the Golden State Warriors. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Matt, for sticking around for 2.5 hours. Very much so. Alex Kennedy, hope you get better soon. Matt Brooks, Justin Lewis, and Mark Schindler, thank you guys for all coming onto the show. Don't forget, guys, to visit basketballnews.com. I mentioned it earlier, and I know this sounds like so homery, but it's not. We have a kick-ass staff. We have a kick-ass website with podcasts and film breakdowns and player features, exclusives. Players write for us. Players podcast for us. Etan Thomas, James Posey. These guys are knowledgeable. They know what they're talking about. So make sure you check out basketballnews.com, our podcast network. Make sure you subscribe, rate, review, like, do all those same things. And visit the website and read our stuff, because I promise you will not be disappointed. And once again, this NBA Watch Party has been sponsored by both Prize Picks and Ticket Smarter. So thank you to our sponsors. Thank you for our guests to come on here. It was a really good time. I think we made the most of it. And until next time, we will talk to you. So everybody take care and enjoy the game there from Oakland.